This young man was an insect expert in his past life, but after reincarnating, he unexpectedly became the strongest poison master in the martial world. The giant centipede that once struck fear into the Jianghu is actually just his pet. The queen bee, commanding tens of thousands of soldiers, was personally nurtured by him. His adorable little larvae? Not only are they obedient, but they also fiercely protect their master. At first glance, his creatures may seem harmless, but they are some of the deadliest poisons in existence. Anyone daring to attack him, even the most formidable martial artists, would meet certain death. The story begins with a young man named Xiaolong, who was originally a streamer specializing in venomous insects and animals. One unlucky day, he got bitten by a poisonous snake and found himself reincarnated into a martial arts world. But no matter where he is, Xiaolong just can't shake his habit of collecting deadly creatures. Tonight, a group of travelers, caught by the nightfall, asks if they can take shelter in Xiaolong's abandoned temple. At that moment, Xiaolong pushed the door open and stepped out, remaining silent. Seeing this, the leader of the group, Tang, immediately became alert. He hadn't expected anyone to be in such a desolate place, let alone a young man. However, with the heavy rain and nowhere else to go, he had no choice but to speak up. "Young hero, may we take shelter here for the night to avoid the rain?" Xiaolong, too, was highly cautious. "Who are these people? Even though I'm young, they greet me respectfully with clasped hands and speak in a formal tone. Do they think I'm some young Taoist guarding this abandoned temple? They don't seem like bad people." After thinking it over, he clasped his hands in return and replied, "I'm merely someone who has taken refuge in this abandoned temple for the past few years. You may stay wherever you wish, but please do not disturb the hall I am using." Tang Zhishan clasped his hands in gratitude. "Thank you. For someone so young, you are truly courteous. We shall do as you say." With Xiaolong's approval, he turned to his subordinates and ordered, "You heard him. Move quickly and find a place to stay, but do not go near the young hero's hall. Understood?" His subordinates responded in unison. "Yes, master." From their respectful address and the embroidered character Tang on their clothing, Xiaolong deduced that they all belonged to the same clan. He was curious about their identity, but there were more pressing matters at hand: feeding his children. As soon as he returned to his room, Xiaolong's demeanor changed drastically. Excitedly, he rushed to the back of the room. "My dear babies, it's dinner time!" Carefully, he checked on the crickets in a clay jar and then carried them to another container. "Almost late. You must be starving, right?" But shockingly, the children Xiaolong referred to were, in fact, a collection of venomous creatures. Inside the jar were black earth tiger, the Hainan tarantulas, a species native to China. These large spiders could grow up to 20 centimeters, their dark coloration resembling a black tiger. Lovingly, Xiaolong picked up crickets one by one and murmured, "Eat well, my little ones. Without you, I don't know what I would do." The moment food was offered, the tarantulas pounced on it, tearing it apart savagely. Seeing this, Xiaolong grew even more excited. "Oh! Such a great reaction! You were once the size of a fingernail, and now you've molted twice and grown so big. Your big brother is so proud." Then, he walked over to a wooden cabinet and opened a drawer. Inside was a bewangling cave gecko, another species native to the region, distinguished by its striped patterns on its body and tail. As usual, Xiaolong smiled from ear to ear while feeding it. "In my past life, it was so difficult to find and buy creatures like you because there were no proper sources. But here I just step outside and see you everywhere. My happiness comes from simply admiring you." However, in his excitement, he didn't notice the lizard suddenly biting his finger, making him cry out in pain. At that moment, an old memory surfaced in his mind. Should I call it my past life? Before I had this body, I was a streamer. With the aura of a streamer followed by millions, I specialize in intense fabre creatures, mainly focusing on insects and venomous animals. The issue was that this was a live broadcast celebrating reaching 1 million followers, featuring the 10 most dangerous venomous snakes in the world. Among them, this one was infamous for being the most dangerous due to its aggressive nature. Traveling all the way to Africa in search of the black mamba turned into a disaster. After searching everywhere without any news, I tiredly responded to fan comments. Hayes, there's nothing at all. Really, nothing. A black mamba isn't some stray cat you find on the street. Let me rest for a bit, and then I'll continue searching. But who would have thought that the very thing I was looking for was curled up on top of the refrigerator? I was bitten in the blink of an eye and died on the spot. When I woke up, I had already reincarnated into this body in an unfamiliar era. Just at that moment, Tang Zhishan knocked on the door, startling Xiaolong. He hurriedly tidied up before opening the door. What's the matter? Tang Zhishan smiled and said, We are very grateful for the shelter from the rain. Would you like to join us for dinner? We just hunted a deer. Hearing about meat, Xiaolong almost teared up with joy. All this time, he had only been eating snakes and lizards, crying while eating. Without hesitation, he accepted the invitation. A while later, the rain had stopped, and the Tang family group started roasting the freshly hunted deer. Xiaolong sat across from the fire, his eyes locked onto the venison, almost drooling. Seeing this, Tang Zhishan struck up a conversation. The meat will take a little longer to cook. While we wait, may I ask you a few questions? Xiaolong snapped back to reality. Yes, senior, please feel free to ask. Since they were deep in the mountains, Tang Zhishan was extremely curious. Do you live alone in these Hainan mountains? How old are you? Xiaolong thought for a moment and answered that he was around 14 or 15 years old. Hearing this, Tang Zhishan was a bit surprised. How could someone not remember their own age? Sensing this, Xiaolong quickly covered up. After a head injury when I was young, I lost memories of my past. This made Tang Zhishan feel sympathetic. Oh, what an unfortunate event. So, you've been living alone here all this time? Xiaolong could only give a wry smile. Yes, since I have no particular skills, I survive by catching snakes, skinning them, and selling them. Seeing such a young boy risking his life to catch snakes for a living, Tang Zhishan felt even more pity for him. Just then, an elderly man with white hair approached, carrying a slab of cooked meat. I've brought my portion ahead of time. Take this first. You seem very hungry. Having not eaten meat in a long time, Xiaolong accepted it without hesitation. Thank you, senior. It has been so long since I last had meat. Stuffing his mouth full, Xiaolong finally felt happiness again. Seeing him eat so heartily, Tang Zhishan and his father couldn't help but smile. Suddenly, Tang Zhishan spoke seriously. Young warrior, listen to me while you eat. We are searching for something. Have you seen anything strange around here? Xiaolong blinked in confusion and asked what he meant by something strange. Over the years, he had only stayed in this area and hadn't noticed anything unusual. Tang Zhishan hesitated for a moment. I'm not sure if I should say this. At that moment, his father spoke up. Patriarch, this young warrior has shown us kindness. Perhaps we can tell him. If he unknowingly encounters danger, it could be fatal. Besides, he lives alone, so he likely won't tell anyone else. Hearing this, Tang Zhishan found it reasonable and continued. Indeed, my father is right. We are searching for a wugong with green spots on its body. Wugong, in other words, a centipede. And not just any centipede, it had green spots. Xiaolong had never heard of such a thing in his previous life, so he was quite surprised. Tang Zhishan continued. Yes, it is called Qingban Wugong. It is quite large, so you may have seen one before. Hearing the words large insect, Xiaolong's interest was immediately piqued. He asked how large it was. Tang Zhishan carefully considered before describing. If it's fully grown, it would be big enough to swallow you whole with ease. Xiaolong's jaw dropped in shock. I thought I had just traveled back a few hundred years, but to think there's a centipede that big. So this is actually an entirely different world. Only now did he realize that he had been reincarnated into another world. Unbelievable! Seeing Xiaolong's alarmed expression, the elder reassured him. Don't worry, we are here to catch it. Thinking they shared the same passion as him, Xiaolong naively asked, Oh, are you planning to keep it as a pet? This question made Tang Zhishan and his father burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, raising a Qing Ban Wugong? That sounds amusing. Young warrior, you are quite interesting. How could anyone keep that thing as a pet? We need it to make medicine. Hearing this, Xiaolong looked disappointed. What? I thought we were business partners, but turns out you're just drug dealers. He then asked, Are you really planning to do that? The elder suddenly stopped laughing and gazed at his clenched fist, looking sorrowful. Of course we must. My granddaughter is bedridden with a severe illness. Only the inner core of the Qing Ban Wugong can save her. So we are desperately searching for it. For those who didn't know, an inner core was a crystalline substance formed from accumulated energy within creatures that had become spiritual beings. After hearing the story, Xiaolong pondered. The child is on the brink of death, so they are willing to try anything. A centipede is not medicine, but a parent's love knows no bounds. Poor divine centipede. But since they fed me meat, I'll help. As soon as Xiaolong mentioned the Wugong, Tang Zhishan was startled. Oh? Have you seen it before? The answer was no, which disappointed him greatly. But Xiaolong continued. Although I don't know what a Qing Ban Wugong is, I can probably guess where it might be. Although he had died in his previous life from a snake bite, Xiaolong was incredibly confident in his knowledge of venomous creatures. Among the approximately 8.7 million known species, around 20,000 were classified as venomous. He had memorized all of them, one by one, and centipedes were no exception. As for poisons, they were all within Xiaolong's grasp. After searching through his memories, Xiaolong finally found some useful information. So, if it's a giant centipede, I think I know where it is. Hearing this, Tang Zhishan and his father widened their eyes in astonishment, staring at Xiaolong. What? Really? If that's true, then where could it be? First, Xiaolong asked for some additional necessary information. Have you searched in any specific areas, and at what times? Can you tell me? Tang Zhishan cooperated enthusiastically. We've searched to the north and east of this area, mainly during the daytime. In the north, we focused on searching along the river bank. After piecing the information together, Xiaolong finally understood why they hadn't found the Qing Ban Wugong yet. To help, he explained in detail. Centipedes belong to the Arthropoda phylum, Myriapoda subphylum, and Chilopoda class. They have a wide range of activity and are poikilothermic, cold-blooded, so they need a hiding place to maintain stable temperature and humidity. Interestingly, unlike most insects, which have a waterproof cuticle, centipedes have weak waterproofing layers, with breathing pores on their exoskeletons. This means they don't actually like areas with too much water. While they require high humidity environments, they don't prefer areas with excess water. On the other hand, they can't survive without enough humidity either. This is a unique trait of centipedes. So, considering that the Qing Ban Wugong is a massive species, it's highly unlikely to be hiding in the dense forest or by the riverbank. Hearing this, the elder held his head in frustration. I can't believe it! So the centipede's preferred habitat isn't rotting wood crevices? Xiaolong continued. Some small centipede species can be found in such places. But aren't you talking about a giant centipede? If its body is huge, then fallen trees in the forest or riverbank rocks wouldn't be suitable hiding spots, because there simply wouldn't be enough space for it to conceal itself. Tang Zhishan found the analysis logical. He nodded at his father before speaking. If we find it in the place you suggest, we will definitely reward you. Hearing this, Xiaolong smiled and pointed straight ahead. The west. You should try searching in the Rocky Mountains to the west. Centipedes typically rest under sun-warmed rocks during the day and only emerge at night. Without hesitation, the Tang family group set off to search according to Xiaolong's instructions. However, despite searching for a long time, they found nothing, and some subordinates began to doubt. Patriarch, could it be that the young man was wrong? With no other options, Tang Zhishan fired a signal arrow and ordered everyone to rest. Around the campfire, people started complaining. Ugh, this is exhausting. I hope that young man's words are true. Why the hell haven't we found that damn centipede yet? Suddenly, everyone fell silent and turned their eyes toward their leader. Tang Zhishan, unable to hold back anymore, sighed in frustration. Tang Yin. She is considered the greatest prodigy in Tang sect's history. Has the heavens really abandoned me? At that moment, the elder arrived with another group of searchers. After exchanging reports, it became clear that neither team had found even the slightest clue. The elder let out a heavy sigh. Tang Yin can only hold on for 3 more months at most. I don't know if we can find it within the next 10 days. With time running out, Tang Zhishan suggested another approach. Father, should we try searching the southern area tomorrow? We haven't found any traces here. The elder was about to agree when he suddenly froze, then burst into laughter. Nothing? That's it. How did I not realize it sooner? This is the answer. Seeing his father so excited while he himself was still utterly confused, Tang Zhishan anxiously asked, Father, did you discover something? The elder explained to his clueless son. No, it's exactly as you said, we haven't sensed any traces or signs at all. And that is precisely why I suspect it is here. Have any of you noticed any traces of wildlife in this area over the past 3 days? Tang Zhishan still didn't understand his father's point. But he answered honestly. No, we haven't found any traces at all. No animal droppings, no territorial markings, nothing. Suddenly, he realized something. The elder excitedly shouted, That's right! How could such a vast rocky mountain have absolutely no signs of wildlife? This is its territory. All the surrounding animals have either fled or become prey for the wugong. The Qing Ban wugong is definitely here. Now, Yin can be saved. Finally, after such a long and arduous search, Tang Zhishan let out a breath of relief. But just then, the ground began to shake violently. Everyone frantically looked around, trying to figure out the cause. Suddenly, right at the campfire, the earth burst apart, and a massive shadow shot into the sky. Everyone who witnessed this scene was left speechless. The creature they had spent countless days searching for, the Qing Ban wugong, had appeared before them at the most unexpected moment. Although caught off guard, under the combined assault of the Tang family, the Qing Ban wugong was quickly defeated, and its inner core was extracted. Holding the life-saving treasure for his granddaughter in his hands, the old master and everyone else couldn't hold back their tears. At this moment, Tang Zhishan stepped forward. Father, please lead the uninjured warriors and depart for Sichuan first. The old master was surprised and asked what his son intended to do. Tang Zhishan gazed into the distance and replied, A debt of gratitude must be repaid, and vengeance must be settled. Resentment is carved into the blood, and kindness is etched into stone. Isn't there still something we need to do here? The old master suddenly remembered and carefully instructed. I almost made a mistake because I was too focused on Yin. That's right, we should treat that young hero as an honored guest. If there's anything he desires, we should fulfill his request. That was exactly what Tang Zhishan had planned. Yes, let the wounded stay in the village to recuperate. Meanwhile, I will go find that young hero. He is probably eager to hear our news as well. On Xiaolong's side, he was currently distressed over an unexpected situation. In just one night, he had become the father of the Qing Ban wugong. Sitting on the ground, Xiaolong was sweating nervously. When I got home, I cleaned the eggs and placed them right next to my pillow. When I woke up this morning, they had all hatched. I had expected it, but I didn't think they'd hatch so quickly. The problem is, I'm not sure if these little ones see me as their mother or not. They just won't leave me alone, not even for a moment. This all started the previous night. After hearing about the legendary monstrous centipede, big enough to swallow a person whole, Xiaolong couldn't resist and secretly followed the Tang family to search for it. Upon reaching the Qing Ban Wugong's hidden lair, he screamed in horror and kicked a beetle on the ground. Ah! What the hell is that? A beetle the size of a fist? After fleeing from the cave in a panic, Xiaolong checked the 3 eggs he had picked up. Luckily, the rain had stopped, otherwise, he might not have been able to save any of them. Suddenly, he stood up, alarmed. This is no time to hesitate. I must clean the eggs immediately. All right, my little Xiao Wugong, just wait a bit. I'll give you all a nice bath soon. And so, now Xiaolong had 3 little Qing Ban Wugong clinging to him nonstop. Though he had never seen a living Qing Ban Wugong before, saving these eggs was enough to make him happy all day. However, his current dilemma was truly a tough one. Hey, aren't you guys planning to leave me at all? I know that until your second molt, you don't need to eat, so I don't have to worry about food. But sticking to me like this is really troublesome. Suddenly, Xiaolong remembered that centipedes hated water, so he decided to take a bath. As soon as he mentioned it, the Xiao Wugong trembled in fear. They seemed to be quite intelligent and could understand human speech. Meanwhile, after having his wounds bandaged, Tang Zhishan returned to look for Xiaolong. He knocked on the door repeatedly but received no response, so he anxiously pushed the door open and entered the room. Seeing the scattered herbs, jars, and medicine boxes, he grew curious about whether Xiaolong was proficient in medicine. However, he soon sighed. This isn't right. Entering an empty room without permission is quite rude. I should come back later. Just as Tang Zhishan turned to leave, he heard a strange sound. Unable to contain his curiosity, he approached and opened a jar on the ground. Seeing a venomous spider inside, he quickly checked the other cabinets on the wall. As he discovered a collection of living poisonous creatures, Tang Zhishan was completely stunned. Incredible! Is he actually raising these creatures and breeding them? Even the Tang family, famous for our knowledge of poisons and venomous beasts, only manages and extracts toxins. We've never been able to collect and hatch their eggs like this. I thought the greatest blessing was saving my beloved daughter, but in reality, the true fortune is this young hero himself. Realizing this, Tang Zhishan was determined to recruit Xiaolong at any cost. Just as he stepped out of the room, he ran into Xiaolong rushing toward him. Oh? Senior, what happened to your arm? Are you injured somewhere else? Seizing the opportunity, Tang Zhishan placed a hand on Xiaolong's shoulder and got straight to the point. It's nothing serious. Rather, what I need to say is... At that moment, he suddenly sensed a terrifying killing intent approaching. It was coming from the strange man walking toward them from the gate. Without hesitation, Tang Zhishan stepped forward to shield Xiaolong, disregarding his own injuries. Young hero, run now! But it was too late. With a single strike, Tang Zhishan was sent flying, coughing up blood repeatedly. A master on par with my father. Even though he knew survival was slim, he was still more worried about Xiaolong and urged him to flee. But when the dust settled, he saw that Xiaolong had already been caught. The eerie man grabbed Xiaolong by the neck and lifted him into the air, laughing at Tang Zhishan. Ha! I heard those Tang family bastards had come to Hainan, so I came to check it out. I didn't expect to find the son of the venomous god injured and alone like this. Tang Zhishan, suffering from internal injuries, struggled to stand. Cough, cough. Senior, who are you? Why are you attacking this young hero and me? The eerie man laughed even louder. Ha! Take a good look at this face and these red hands. Your father did this to me, blood-handed Azura. Takan Yang. Hearing the name, Tang Zhishan immediately recognized him. Takan Yang. I heard he was poisoned in the head and fell off a cliff by the sea. So, he survived after all. Knowing the cruelty of this man, Tang Zhishan quickly shouted, This young hero has nothing to do with us. Let him go, and I will trade my life for his. But Takan Yang simply grinned while tightening his grip on Xiaolong. I refuse. Anyone who lays a hand on me, even slightly, must die. It was clear the demon had no intention of letting anyone live. Tang Zhishan, too injured to move, could only grit his teeth in helplessness. Meanwhile, Xiaolong, an ordinary man, was suffocating in his grasp. At this rate, he was surely going to die. As he was losing consciousness, he instinctively pleaded, "Please! Save me!" As soon as the words left his mouth, the three Xiao Wugong crawled out and latched onto Tak and Yang, biting him viciously. Sensing danger, Tak and Yang quickly dropped Xiaolong to try and grab the little centipedes. But it was already too late. The venom had spread throughout his body, turning him into a dried-up corpse. He fell lifelessly to the ground. Seeing the enemy was dead, Xiaolong quickly scrambled away and asked, "That guy was a bad person, right?" Watching this terrifying scene, Tang Zhishan was utterly speechless. But suddenly, a cunning smile appeared on his face. "A guest? No, this young hero must become a member of the Tang family." A few days later, despite being carefully tended to by Xiaolong, Tang Zhishan's condition worsened. "We can't delay any longer. Senior, if you tell me where you're staying, I'll go check it out." "No, that won't work. Leaving you alone here is dangerous, but I also can't call a doctor." Tang Zhishan's face was pale and gaunt, yet he still tried to reassure Xiaolong. "I'll be fine, don't worry. A few days of rest, and I'll recover." If Xiaolong hadn't witnessed him coughing up blood before, he might have believed that. "Please don't say that. Your condition is critical right now." Hearing Xiaolong's genuine concern, Tang Zhishan felt a bit touched. "Hey, don't worry. I am a martial artist." Hearing the words martial artist, Xiaolong froze in shock. "What? A martial artist? You mean those people who can fly and use powerful strikes?" Tang Zhishan chuckled. "Not everyone can do that, but it's not entirely wrong." Xiaolong's mouth dropped open in amazement. "Incredible! This world really is different. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for a centipede to be as big as a house." At that moment, Tang Zhishan expressed his gratitude. "Regardless, thanks to you, I'm still alive. You have saved my life. I apologize for my lack of formalities, but let me properly introduce myself. I am Tang Zhishan, the head of the Tang clan of Sichuan." Xiaolong introduced himself as Wei Xiaolong. Only now did the two begin a proper conversation. "Additionally, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Would you mind?" Receiving Xiaolong's approval, Tang Zhishan immediately asked about the creatures in his possession, something he had been curious about for days. "The poisonous creatures you carry with you, are they wugong?" When Xiaolong explained that they were larvae of the Qing Ban wugong, Tang Zhishan was so shocked that he jumped up. "You're saying you tame Qing Ban wugong larvae? Where did you find them? How did you manage to tame them? While waiting for you, I noticed, are all the venomous creatures in this room raised by you?" Flooded with questions, Xiaolong calmly explained everything from the beginning. After listening, Tang Zhishan asked in disbelief, "Wait. You picked up the eggs yourself and raised them?" Xiaolong, unfazed, nodded. "Yes, I can even estimate when the eggs will hatch." For Xiaolong, this was a simple matter, but for Tang Zhishan, it was almost unimaginable. After all, in this era, there were no extensive scientific research materials like those found worldwide in Xiaolong's original world. To demonstrate, Xiaolong took out two of his beloved creatures. "Here, do you want to see this? This is a common cave lizard. It has yellow stripes on its body and white stripes on its tail. And here, those with large white stripes on their tails were selected for breeding. And the result is that these two colors became more pronounced." Seeing this for the first time, Tang Zhishan exclaimed in astonishment. "Are you saying you created these color patterns yourself?" Xiaolong became excited. "That's right. Isn't it beautiful?" This young man was clearly obsessed with his research. Suddenly, Tang Zhishan leaned in and asked, "Then, does that mean if we only breed the ones with the strongest venom, we could create an even deadlier species?" Using his knowledge of biology, Xiaolong thought for a moment before replying. If we can determine which ones have the strongest venom, then of course, it's possible. That's not difficult. Before he could finish speaking, Tang Zhishan shouted in excitement. What? That's actually possible? You join my clan! If you become part of the Tang family, all of our martial arts techniques will be taught to you without reservation. Rare herbs, spiritual plants, and any venom you desire will be within your grasp. With your abilities, you might even be able to capture or raise one of the 10 deadly beasts of the Central Plains that are famous in the martial world. As if that wasn't tempting enough, he continued. And if that still isn't enough to persuade you, without bragging, but one of the 3 greatest beauties of the Central Plains is my daughter. He even offered his daughter just to recruit Xiaolong. Truly a Father of the Year candidate. At that moment, Xiaolong interrupted. Wait. What did you just say? Tang Zhishan smirked triumphantly. So as a young man, you're interested in this, huh? My daughter, one of the 3 greatest beauties of the Central Plains. But that wasn't what Xiaolong was curious about. No, not that. You mentioned the 10 deadly beasts of the Central Plains. Are they as terrifying as the Qing Ban Wugong? Seeing Xiaolong's interest shift, Tang Zhishan eagerly explained. Of course. Qing Ban Wugong is formidable, but it's still considered a low-tier venomous creature. It cannot compare to the 10 deadly beasts. From centipedes as big as houses to frogs shining like pure gold, no matter what you imagine. The reality will surpass your expectations. Hearing just that, Xiaolong's eyes sparkled with excitement. It seemed that he was successfully convinced. 2 days later, the rest of the Tang family arrived to find their injured patriarch. Seeing their leader wounded, they were all deeply concerned. The name of Tang Yang had long been feared in the martial world for his cruelty and bloodlust. Now that Tang Zhishan was in a much better condition, he slowly recounted what had happened. It was truly a close call. I didn't expect that he had been hiding away, training his martial arts, and had now reached a level almost equal to my father's. Suddenly, one of the subordinates shouted excitedly. Wait, does that mean you defeated him, clan leader? Have you reached the peak of poison mastery? Congratulations, clan leader! Tang Zhishan chuckled and replied. No, it wasn't me who killed him. It was this young hero right here. Upon hearing this, everyone turned to grab Xiaolong's hands and feet in gratitude. It was you, young hero. Thank you for saving our clan leader's life. Could it be? Are you a hidden master who never ages? Xiaolong was completely bewildered, not knowing how to respond. Seeing his discomfort, Tang Zhishan stepped in to clarify. Young hero, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps you should show them directly? At his suggestion, Xiaolong called out his Xiao Wugong. When the Tang clan members realized that these were Qing Ban Wugong larvae and that they were the ones who had defeated Tang Yang, they all erupted in shock. What? Is their venom safe? You actually tamed Qing Ban Wugong? A young hero with such talent exists? Sitting calmly, Tang Zhishan continued. That's why I've decided to invite him to join our family. He said he needed some time to think it over. Hearing this, the subordinates became even more excited. Young hero, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Seeing their enthusiasm, Xiaolong sat in silence, not daring to say a word. Suddenly, Tang Zhishan clenched his fist, gathering his internal energy. It seems I should stand up now. We must not delay any longer. Noticing his expression, Xiaolong asked, Senior, is there something else you need to do? Tang Zhishan paused before answering. Blood-handed Rakshasa Tang Yang practiced a horrifying martial art known as Blood Hand Venom Claw. This sinister technique requires human blood and marrow to advance in cultivation. If he left behind any manuals or disciples, we must eliminate them to prevent future disasters. And if anyone has been captured, we must rescue them. Everyone agreed with this righteous cause. Then, all eyes turned to Xiaolong. Young hero, could you help us? You are familiar with the geography of Hainan Island. After all, Hearing this, Xiaolong closed his eyes and thought carefully. Joining the Tang family might mean a lifelong commitment. Normally, an internship is a way to observe a company's atmosphere and to evaluate the boss's character, right? After careful consideration, he nodded. All right, once you recover, I'll assist you as best as I can. He planned to thoroughly investigate the Tang family during this journey. If anything seemed off, he'd just run away. 3 days had passed since Tang Zhishan had recovered. Xiaolong and the Tang family, in search of the blood-handed Rakshasa Takan Yang's hideout, visited a village near the abandoned Taoist temple. When asked about any missing persons, the village chief was more than willing to cooperate with the Tang family. It seemed that the reputation of the Tang family from Sichuan was well regarded in the Central Plains. Unfortunately, they were unable to gather any useful information. After visiting several villages without making any progress, Xiaolong spoke up, "Is this village no different from the others?" Tang Zhishan pondered carefully, him seeing how he noticed us and revealed himself. I assumed he must be somewhere nearby. Searching for him is truly not easy. Xiaolong also found it strange. Practicing such a sinister martial art that harms people, how could he not leave even the slightest trace? Carefully recalling what Takan Yang had said, Xiaolong suddenly had a hypothesis. Senior, do you remember what he said when he appeared? Tang Zhishan had been knocked away at that moment, so he hadn't heard anything. Only Xiaolong, who had been grabbed by the throat, remembered. Xiaolong then analyzed. He said, "The Tang family has entered Hainan." In other words, someone knew that the Tang family had set foot on Hainan Island and reported it to Takan Yang. Right. That makes things easier. We just need to verify the places the Tang family has passed through on Hainan Island. Based on appearances, no, if we use portrait descriptions to ask around, we should be able to find him. Hearing this idea, everyone was astonished. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's brilliant. If the blood-handed Rakshasa Takan Yang said that, he must have received information from someone who saw us. In that case, it's simple. Let's move immediately. Receiving praise, Xiaolong blushed with embarrassment. After some inquiries, the group arrived at a village near the port. According to Xiaolong, the villagers here were unlikely to be hostile toward them. However, from the outside, the village had an unusually gloomy atmosphere, as if devoid of life. As they approached, the village chief and some villagers came to block their way with an unfriendly demeanor. "What are you Han people doing here?" Tang Zhishan immediately bowed and greeted them. "I am the head of the Tang family from Sichuan. My name is Tang Zhishan. The reason we came here is..." Meanwhile, Xiaolong was observing the village. This village seems lifeless. Even the children look weak. Wait, what's going on with these people? Could they all have been poisoned? After hearing their reason for coming, the village chief suddenly changed his attitude. "I don't know anything about missing persons. Nothing is happening in our village. Go back." Tang Zhishan asked again, but it seems that there are fewer people in the village. Before he could finish, the village chief shouted loudly, cutting him off, "This is not something you Han people need to concern yourselves with. Leave." His hostility left everyone speechless. Tang Zhishan whispered, "Why, young hero, didn't you say the people here were friendly toward Han people?" Xiaolong awkwardly scratched his head, unsure of how to respond. He hadn't expected this situation either. At that moment, a little girl standing beside the village chief suddenly collapsed. The chief, who had been gruff moments ago, immediately picked her up with teary eyes. "Oh no, Mi-jin, you can't. You're the only family I have left. Why have you also fallen to this terrible illness?" Seeing this, Tang Zhishan stepped forward without hesitation. "Village chief, I have some medical knowledge. May I help?" For the sake of his granddaughter's life, the village chief had no choice but to agree. He then honestly answered their earlier question. "In truth, a strange disease has plagued our village for some time. The children are dying one by one, and the adults are also falling into weakness." Understanding the situation, Tang Zhishan immediately offered to assess the illness. The village chief hurriedly commanded, "What are you all waiting for? Bring the doctor and his group inside at once. With the girl's life at stake. Everyone quickly entered the village. At that moment, Xiaolong asked in surprise, Senior, you know medicine as well? A Tang family member explained, yes, our clan's martial arts revolve around handling toxins, so we are highly proficient in medical skills. Moreover, mastering martial arts begins with understanding the human body, so we must have some medical knowledge. Hearing this, Xiaolong gained a newfound respect for the Tang family. I thought they were just assassins who specialized in poison. If I were to join the Tang family, learning martial arts along with medical skills wouldn't be so bad. Just as he was forming a positive impression, the same Tang family member suddenly smirked sinisterly. Of course, sometimes we capture criminals and inject them with poison just to observe the reactions. Xiaolong shivered in fear again. Human experimentation? That's a bit terrifying. As expected, they are quite scary people. While the clan leader was doing his best to recruit, his subordinates were ruining the impression. A while later, after Tang Zhishan infused his internal energy into the girl, she seemed to improve slightly. The village chief was deeply grateful. Thank you, sir. She is my only remaining granddaughter. Please save her. Tang Zhishan then asked seriously. Her pulse is unstable. How strange. Was her heart weak from birth? The village chief replied sorrowfully. No, her condition only worsened about 6 months ago. Not just her. Many others in the village have also fallen into weakness. We call it the cursed disease. That's why I told you to leave earlier at the village gate. Now, they understood the previous hostility. After examining the villagers' conditions, Tang Zhishan found it puzzling. This is truly strange. Weakness, swelling around the eyes, unstable pulse, and mild fever, though the symptoms vary, all those with severe illness have heart problems. For now, he couldn't determine a complete solution. Meanwhile, Xiaolong, exhausted, had fallen asleep. As an ordinary person, keeping up with martial artists for days on end had truly drained him. Wanting to ensure his safety, Tang Zhishan decided to check on him. Seeing him sleeping soundly, he felt somewhat reassured. But suddenly his face darkened. Without saying a word, he burst into the room and delivered a stinging slap to Xiaolong. While sleeping soundly, Xiaolong was suddenly slapped awake. Startled, he sat up against the wall, crying in grievance. What's going on, senior? Oh my God, that hurts. Tang Zhishan quickly explained, sorry, I was just trying to catch the bug crawling on your face. Seeing Xiaolong's disbelief, he clarified further, listen to me. I just stopped by to check on you before resting. Then, out of nowhere, a bug flew onto your face. You know, there are many unknown poisonous insects on Hainan Island, which can be quite dangerous. So, I instinctively slapped it. Look at this. This bug is huge. Seeing the massive bug in Tang Zhishan's hand, Xiaolong immediately recognized it. Connecting this to the villager's condition, he reconfirmed, Senior, all the patients, despite their different symptoms, share the same irregular pulse, correct? After confirming, Xiaolong reached a conclusion. The cause of the strange illness spreading through this village is this bug. It belonged to the Reduvidi family, known for feeding on blood near the eyes or lips of sleeping individuals. This bug was incredibly fast, even quicker than mosquitoes, earning it the name vampire bug, or assassin bug. While not venomous itself, its stomach contained harmful parasites. When it bit someone, its feces transmitted the parasites, causing infection. This disease is known as trypanosomiasis, or Chagas disease. It is one of the deadliest insect-borne diseases, ranking 7th in human fatalities. After explaining this to everyone, Xiaolong turned to the village chief. Chief, have the village dogs been panting heavily or showing symptoms similar to the people? Just as Xiaolong expected, the disease affecting the village was caused by this bug. Realizing the cause, the village chief held on to a glimmer of hope. Then, can my granddaughter be saved? Xiaolong hesitated. That depends. If we have the medicine, there's still a chance, but... At that moment, Tang Zhishan burst into laughter. "Ha, Jiu Bai, what do you think of my judgment of people?" Jiu Bai, sitting nearby, chuckled. "Indeed, I now see the true value of this young hero." Seeing them laugh, Xiaolong was utterly confused. He didn't understand what was so funny in this situation. Suddenly, Tang Zhishan turned to him. "Young hero, join the Sichuan Tang clan." Xiaolong was completely bewildered, looking at the Tang clan members with a questioning gaze. Tang Zhishan then explained, "There's something called goo worms, known as venomous or cursed parasites. These are bred by sinister individuals in the Central Plains. They force people to swallow them, causing excruciating pain at regular intervals or even controlling them entirely. Many martial artists have lost their lives to these parasites. Some even killed their own children before committing suicide, or betrayed their families to become slaves to these villains. Thus, for a long time, martial artists have been working to create an antidote to expel or dissolve these parasites." Hearing this made Xiaolong skeptical. Even with modern science in his past life, developing such an antidote seemed nearly impossible. Just then, Tang Zhishan reached into his chest pocket and shouted, "All right. If martial artists were to develop an antidote, where would they do it?" "Naturally, in our Sichuan Tang clan. We have a medicine that can dissolve tumors the size of a fist inside the body, so what are tiny parasites compared to that? Wu Goo dissolution pill, just a little of this is enough. So don't worry. Chief, your granddaughter will be saved." Upon hearing this, the village chief was moved to tears. As a result, starting with the chief's granddaughter, the villagers gradually recovered. Their warm gratitude was an added reward. Seeing their bright expressions, it seemed the information about their optimistic nature was true. During the celebratory feast, Tang Zhishan suddenly patted Xiaolong on the shoulder and declared to the villagers, "If this young hero hadn't identified the cause, things would have been much harder. So, your true benefactor isn't me, it's him." Watching Xiaolong receive the villagers' heartfelt gratitude, Tang Zhishan was as happy as if it were his own achievement. This deeply touched Xiaolong. A while later, when most of the villagers had left, the village chief quietly leaned toward Tang Zhishan and whispered, "About what you mentioned at the village entrance." Having been caught up in recent events, Tang Zhishan had forgotten all about it until the chief brought it up. "Our people have been searching for the village where people disappeared. To repay your kindness, I investigated a little and heard a strange story. A woman in our village married from another village. A few years ago, her home village experienced something eerie. People started disappearing one by one." Upon hearing this, Tang Zhishan immediately signaled his subordinates and asked, "Where is this place?" Following the directions given, the team immediately set out for a small village to the west. Before even reaching the entrance, the overwhelming stench of corpses filled the air, signaling something terribly wrong. As soon as they arrived, Tang Zhishan shouted in fury. The sight before them was horrifying. Bodies lay everywhere, some not yet fully decomposed, emitting thick toxic fumes. Jiu Bai shut his eyes tightly, unable to bear the scene. "This is chilling. Don't let the young hero see this." But Xiaolong had already seen everything. Just then, someone noticed a large bird feeding on a corpse. "We can't allow the deceased to be further defiled. Get lost!" Before Tang Zhishan could stop him, the man threw a rock at the bird. Suddenly attacked, the bird turned its gaze toward the Tang clan group, staring at them intensely. At first glance, it was obvious that this was no ordinary bird. Frustrated, the man who threw the rock prepared to fight, but Tang Zhishan quickly stopped him. "Wait! Something isn't right." Thankfully, he realized it in time, or they would have all perished. With a single flap of its wings, everything nearby instantly melted into a pool of black liquid. Without hesitation, Tang Zhishan covered Xiaolong's nose and mouth and pulled him back. "Everyone, retreat immediately. That is a Jin Yao." After the team retreated to a safe place, everyone sat quietly, meditating to regulate their breathing. Suddenly, Tang Zhishan spoke up. "When its wings are fully spread, they can reach 5 meters in length. Its beak is a bright bronze color, sharp like a spearhead, and its entire body is covered in deep purple feathers. When it spreads its wings in anger, everything around it turns black and perishes, then dissolves into poison. Atop its head is a radiant golden crown, exuding an aura of majesty befitting an emperor. This creature is known as Jin, or the Jin Yao. Hearing this grand description, Xiaolong grew increasingly excited. Could it be? Was that just now one of the 10 deadliest creatures? Tang Zhishan nodded. Indeed, that was the leader of the 10 deadly assassins, hailed as the emperor of all poisonous creatures, the Jin Yao. Xiaolong's eyes sparkled with excitement, his mouth unable to close from awe. That was absolutely terrifying. Incredibly powerful. Compared to this, the poisonous bugs and snakes on Earth seem almost adorable. Here, it's like lethal biological weapons are flying all over the place. Tang Zhishan continued. It seems to have been lured here by the swarm of venomous snakes carrying deadly toxins. It is said that the Jin Yao only eats the heads of the most venomous snakes. A sighting of this creature is incredibly rare. It is so elusive that only once in 100 years does someone get to witness it. Hearing this, Xiaolong pondered for a while before asking, "Are you thinking of capturing it?" Everyone around him froze in shock. No one had ever dared to even dream of such a thing. Only Tang Zhishan laughed. "Do you want to try catching it, young hero?" "Ha!" Xiaolong was completely serious, mumbling to himself. "That's right. But with its poison being so strong." Sensing a golden opportunity, Tang Zhishan revealed his trump card to persuade him. "You brat, you seem very interested in the 10 deadly assassins, huh? Well, there is a way. If you master the Tang clan's poison arts, your body will become immune to all poisons, even the toxin of the Jin Yao. In this world, only the martial arts of our Tang clan can resist that poison. Ah, but what a pity! Our Tang clan does not teach our family's secret techniques to outsiders. No matter how much I want to help you, as the clan leader, I cannot break our ancestral rules." Just as expected, Xiaolong immediately panicked and shouted, If I become a member of the Tang clan, would I be able to learn it? And if I reach the level of complete poison immunity, could I really withstand the Jin Yao's poison?" When it came to his interests, Xiaolong was far too easy to manipulate. Tang Zhishan calmly responded, "If you decide now, I will not hesitate to teach you everything. Of course, the initiation ceremony will be grand. But if you hesitate for too long, well, I'll have to think about it carefully, won't I?" At this point, he couldn't hold back a cunning smile. Xiaolong, eager to capture one of the 10 deadly assassins as soon as possible, agreed immediately. "I agreed to become a member of the Tang clan. Please teach me, elder, no, clan leader." Achieving his goal, Tang Zhishan laughed heartily but quickly regained his composure. Placing a hand on Xiaolong's shoulder, he declared, "From this moment on, you are forever a member of the Tang clan." A while later, at the residence of the blood-handed Rakshasa, Thok Van Dung, after a thorough search, a martial arts manual was found deep within a cave. Judging by the blood-written characters, it was undoubtedly the demonic art they were searching for. To prevent it from falling into the wrong hands, Tang Zhishan hurriedly returned to Sichuan. Of course, now that Xiaolong had joined the Tang clan, he had to go with them. Before leaving, Xiaolong requested to return to his Taoist temple to release his beloved pets. If he left them behind, they would starve to death. Tang Zhishan happily agreed. After all, they needed time to prepare Xiaolong's travel supplies. The journey to Sichuan was no mere few days' trip. With the decision made, the group turned to leave the gruesome place. Just then, Xiaolong noticed something in the distance. It was a feather shed by the Jin Yao. This feather continuously emitted a thick, deadly aura. Just one look was enough to tell it was no ordinary object. With his experience handling poisonous creatures, Tang Zhishan carefully put on gloves, picked up the feather, and placed it in a special box. "Consider this a welcome gift for joining the Tang clan. You seem quite interested in it, after all." Seeing this, Xiaolong could barely contain his excitement. "Thank you, elder, no, clan leader." Tang Zhishan chuckled, saying he didn't particularly like the formal title, but they could discuss changing it after the official induction ceremony. From his tone and actions, it seemed he was planning something. Xiaolong, however, still thought it was just a simple initiation ritual. Meanwhile, at the Tang clan in Sichuan, the supreme clan leader, Tang Wuqing, who had departed earlier, finally arrived. After traveling non-stop for countless days and nights using his qinggong, he was breathless yet still prioritized his granddaughter's condition. Aided by the servants, he rushed inside, immediately pulling out the inner core of the Qing Ban Wugong. Tang Yin-er's condition was now extremely critical. Fortunately, he had arrived just in time. After giving his granddaughter the inner core, Tang Wuqing carefully transferred his internal energy to help her absorb the medicinal properties. Elsewhere, Xiaolong, carried on someone's back while trekking through mountains and rivers, looked as if he were on the verge of collapse. "I've heard that the Central Plains are vast, but I never imagined it would be this immense. From Hainan, we traveled by boat to Hongou, then passed through Nanning. After a grueling month-and-a-half journey, we finally reached Sichuan." Standing before the Tang clan's gate, Xiaolong was awestruck by its grandeur. The entire mountain belonged to the Tang clan, thus it was named Tang Clan Mountain. Just as Xiaolong was feeling nervous, a large crowd suddenly rushed out, nearly scaring him to death. "Are all these people members of the Tang clan? There are so many of them!" At the very end of the crowd, a stunning young lady ran forward and embraced Tang Zhishan. This was one of the three great beauties of the Central Plains, Tang Yin-er. Seeing her for the first time, Xiaolong was completely mesmerized. "Is this beauty even real? In my past life, I worked with top celebrities, but this is the first time I've seen someone radiate such an aura." At that moment, Tang Zhishan turned to Xiaolong and said, "I have someone to introduce to you. Xiaolong, this is my daughter, Tang Yin-er." "Oh, I remember you said something before, didn't you? Something about grass dot?" Right. You called her wild grass." Recalling his earlier words, Xiaolong realized that, in his obsession with the 10 deadly assassins, he had casually referred to Yin-er as wild grass. Now, hearing it repeated in front of so many people, he was so embarrassed he wished he could crawl into a hole and disappear. The poisonous flower of the Tang family, Tang Yin-er, the only daughter of the Sichuan Tang family, had endured a deep and personal struggle since childhood. When she was young, she accidentally overheard a conversation between two elders. Her talent is still unclear. But isn't her beauty outstanding enough to be called one of the three great beauties of the martial world? Just choosing a suitable son-in-law and name should be enough. We've already suggested taking in more concubines, but I don't understand why the family head opposes it." These words felt like 1,000 knives piercing Yin-er's heart. She wanted to prove her worth to the elders of her family, that even though she was not a man, she could still contribute greatly by mastering the family's martial arts. However, as the saying goes, haste makes waste. Her impatience led to inner demons, and those inner demons became an obstacle that pushed her to the brink of demonic deviation. Fortunately, she was saved thanks to the inner elixir of the Qing Ban Wugong. Upon awakening, Yin-er sobbed, "Mother, I'm sorry. I have lost all my internal energy." Her grandfather, who sat beside her, comforted her gently. "Silly girl, are you feeling guilty for making your father and grandfather worry? You have already reached the heavenly venom realm you've always dreamed of. Stop crying and be happy instead." Hearing this, Yin-er quickly examined her internal energy. Not only had she survived her demonic deviation, but her martial arts had even advanced. It was completely unexpected. Suddenly, Tang Wuqing reminded her, "Yin-er, before I say anything else, there's someone you must know about. Not only did he save your life, but he also helped you surpass the 100 Venoms realm and achieve the heavenly Venom state. He is a mysterious young hero." Back to the present, the atmosphere was truly awkward. Facing Yin-er, Xiaolong didn't know what to say. "I'm doomed. I was so obsessed with the 10 great venom assassins that I actually dared to call the young lady of a great family a wild weed. Past me. You should reflect on yourself. Seeing this scene, Tang Zhishan couldn't help but laugh heartily. This was the daughter he had always been proud of, who wouldn't fall for her. After an awkward silence, Xiaolong quickly clasped his hands in greeting. Ahaha, the family head is joking. It is truly an honor to meet you, young lady. I am Wei Xiaolong. I have heard that you were once ill, and seeing you in good health now is truly a relief. Yinair responded with a bright smile and returned the greeting. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am the poisonous flower, Tang Yinair. I sincerely thank you for saving my life. I will never forget this kindness for the rest of my life. Her beauty was like a blooming flower, causing Xiaolong's heart to waver. At that moment, Tang Zhishan transmitted his voice to Xiaolong. So, what do you think? Even if she's just a wild weed, isn't she still stunning? The poisonous flower, do you dare to pluck it? Hearing this, Xiaolong's face turned completely red, and he didn't know how to respond. A while later, after days of exhausting travel, Xiaolong was finally able to soak in a warm bath. Suddenly, he glanced at the 3 Xiao Wugong resting in a bucket beside him. You guys are always clinging to me. Hot water isn't good for you. Do you want to stay inside the bucket for a bit? As soon as he finished speaking, they immediately crawled inside, as if they understood his words. Strange. It seems like they understand me, at least to some extent. According to old Zhishan, they seem to react to killing intent. Seeing them peeking at him, Xiaolong chuckled. Staring at a bare body like this will make people embarrassed, you know? Immediately, the Xiao Wugong scurried away in embarrassment. He had heard that these creatures were considered sacred beasts, but he was still curious about what that truly meant. Meanwhile, Tang Zhishan's words kept echoing in his mind, making it impossible for him to stay calm. Damn it! I really am just a young man, after all. At the Tang family's gathering, Tang Zhishan made an important decision. He arranged for Xiaolong to stay in the East Chamber, a room traditionally reserved for the most honored guests in Chinese culture. Tang Wuqing was curious. Is this young hero really worthy of such treatment? Tang Zhishan then explained. Yes. We thought we had stumbled upon a great opportunity, but in truth, the opportunity wasn't something he found. He himself is the opportunity. His knowledge of venomous creatures is extraordinary, and not only did he kill Tak and Yang, but he also encountered the legendary Jin Yao and even hatched the egg of a Qing Ban Wugong on his own. Hearing these incredible feats, Tang Wuqing laughed heartily. Ha ha! I can't believe I almost overlooked such a treasure. It seemed that he, too, had acknowledged Xiaolong's worth. At that moment, Tang Zhishan turned to his daughter and asked, Yinair, I want to take this young hero as my son-in-law. What do you think? Hearing this, Yinair froze in place for a moment, then fell into deep silence. Now that I have surpassed the 100 venoms and entered the heavenly venom realm, I want to prove that I can contribute more to my family. If I stop here, I will never be recognized by the elders. After careful thought, Yinair slammed the table, her eyes brimming with tears. I am also a member of the Tang family. I understand why father is saying this. But whether or not this young hero is truly worthy of me, I must judge that for myself. With that, she turned and left. Watching his daughter's retreating figure, Tang Zhishan silently prayed. Be careful, young hero. The poisonous flower may be beautiful, but it carries many sharp thorns. As Yinair ran, tears streamed down her face, her thoughts tangled. Now I can aim for an even higher realm. If I stop here, the elders of my family will never acknowledge me. I will personally test his talent and character to see if he is truly worthy. Meanwhile, Xiaolong sat in a pavilion, sighing deeply. Sigh. What should I do? It seems like I've left a bad impression on the young lady of a great family. What should I do now? Sensing his distress, the Xiao Wugong seemed to be trying to comfort him. At that moment, Yinair suddenly appeared, covered in sweat and panting. Young hero, Please forgive my rudeness. I am in a hurry. May I borrow your hand for a moment? Xiaolong hesitated for a moment before awkwardly pulling his hand back. I'm not sure what you need, but perhaps this is something we should only do when we're more familiar with each other. You know, there are certain procedures to follow. At first, Iner didn't understand. But when she realized what he meant, her face turned bright red. That's not what I meant. What are you even saying? After calming down, she slowly explained. It's not what you think. I just wanted to check your pulse. Maybe because I suddenly asked you to give me your hand, you misunderstood. Misinterpreting everything on his own, Xiaolong could only give an awkward laugh. Ah, I see. Haha, it was my mistake. Iner then slowly sat beside him. First of all, I want to apologize. I appeared too suddenly and acted rudely. You look very young, not even of age yet, but you seem to be someone who thinks things through. So, I'll explain everything that is happening. After listening to the full story, Xiaolong somewhat understood. What I heard next was like something straight out of a historical drama. As the only direct descendant, she constantly endured devious schemes from branch family factions. To ensure the continuation of the family, the elders decided to recruit a capable son-in-law. They even considered how my presence might change the family hierarchy. After finishing her explanation, Iner solemnly apologized. So, I want to say sorry first. But there is something I need to confirm with you. Even if things don't go as expected, I have no intention of mistreating you. You are my benefactor, so of course, we will treat you as an honored guest. No, rather, how about as sworn brothers? At that moment, Xiaolong extended his hand and smiled. I understand what you're trying to say. If you need to confirm something, go ahead. Iner froze for a moment before using her inner energy to examine him. The martial arts of the Tang family are not something just anyone can grasp. Some people can absorb poisons into their bodies and master the Tang family's deadly techniques, while others cannot at all. The Tang family's poison techniques require one to gradually adapt to various poisons as their internal energy grows. Only by enduring them all can one reach mastery. Fortunately, your body is capable of learning poison techniques, but it only has the 10 poison body. This means your body can only withstand 10 types of poisons. For someone not born into the Tang family, having the 10 poison body is already impressive. However, in terms of overall strength, you can only be considered a first-rank martial artist. That is the highest level someone without innate talent can achieve. I sincerely apologize, but I must take my leave now. After speaking at length without pause, Iner stood up and left, leaving Xiaolong sitting there, dumbfounded. I have the 10 poison body? Does that mean I won't be able to catch the Jinyao? For him, this was a very serious problem. That night, after taking a bath, Iner mumbled to herself. Ever since I absorbed the inner core of Qing Ban Wugong, my body has been emitting this strange scent. I even bathe multiple times a day. Is this punishment for treating my benefactor so ungratefully? Meanwhile, Xiaolong drifted into a hazy dream. In the dream, the figure of Iner suddenly appeared, kneeling on the ground and crying, Hulu, I am deeply grateful for your endless kindness. Thank you, my benefactor. Seeing this, Xiaolong froze, thinking he was dreaming about Iner because he had been thinking about her too much. But then, the person who looked like Iner spoke. No, you may think this is a dream, but it is not. I only borrowed the appearance of this girl, the one who swallowed my inner core, to avoid frightening you. I am the mother of those children, Qing Ban Wugong. Suddenly, 3 little figures appeared, making Xiaolong jump in surprise. It turned out that these were 3 little Xiao Wugong, and they were all girls. Regaining his composure, Xiaolong bowed and asked, But how did all of you appear in my dream? Qing Ban Wugong explained. I was cruelly murdered, leaving my children behind. My resentment reached the heavens, and my soul remained within my inner core. While I cursed the girl who absorbed my core, an opportunity to resolve my grudge has come, allowing me to appear in your dream. It is all thanks to you for bringing my children along, my benefactor. Hearing this, Xiaolong suddenly felt guilty. After all, I was the one who revealed her location to others. I didn't do it intentionally, but still, I was involved in Qing Ban Wugong's death. Suddenly, Qing Ban Wugong spoke again. My benefactor, if it is not too much trouble, could you grant me one request? Xiaolong looked at her with determined eyes. Of course, I will fulfill any request you have. Qing Ban Wugong gently patted her children's heads before making her plea. Could you take care of my children until they mature? Hearing this, Xiaolong was confused. Huh. But millipedes can live independently after shedding twice, right? Qing Ban Wugong slowly explained. For lesser creatures, that may be true. But our kind is different. Before my children undergo their second molting, they are highly dependent on the life energy from their mother's inner core. After that, they continue to grow by absorbing the vital energy of other living beings. Hearing this, Xiaolong quickly asked, Wait, Lady Iner absorbed the inner core, so does that mean they need to stay close to her? At this, Qing Ban Wugong suddenly became stern. You must understand our situation, my benefactor. Earlier, I mentioned that I cursed the girl, didn't I? Because of my inner core, her body now emits a foul scent. I will not allow any man to get close to her, and I have made it so she cannot bear children. If you want to lift this curse, let my children absorb the energy from the inner core. And this could also be your chance to win her heart. Xiaolong pondered for a moment before responding with a smile. I don't think that would be right. I don't want to take advantage of Lady Iner's misfortune. Hearing this, Qing Ban Wugong was deeply moved. You truly are an admirable person, my benefactor. But if so, how do you plan to overcome this challenge? It seems that the girl is looking for a man with great strength. And I cannot give you the inner cores of the 10 great poison masters. Hearing this, Xiaolong suddenly had an idea. After convincing Qing Ban Wugong to trust him, Xiaolong arranged to meet Iner the next day. After hearing everything, Iner finally understood. So that's why my body emits this scent. It's because of Qing Ban Wugong's inner core? Xiaolong brought out the little Xiao Wugong and explained. Exactly. And if you let them stay near you every few days to absorb energy from the inner core, the scent will naturally disappear. After thinking for a moment, Iner hesitated before asking. I feel a bit awkward asking this, but are you really telling me all this without expecting any reward? You could ask me for something in return, you know. Contrary to her expectations, Xiaolong replied with a bright smile. Well, I just can't bring myself to take advantage of a lady in distress. I don't want to be that kind of shameless person. Hearing this, Iner made a firm decision. All right then, I can't keep accepting your kindness without repaying you. I will seriously consider my father's words. Xiaolong, seeing you like this makes me realize that some things are more important than talent or martial arts. But Xiaolong had his own ambitions. Well, to be honest, I have thought about it too. You said I have the 10 poison body and can only absorb 10 types of poisons, right? So I have an idea. If I can only accept 10 poisons, then why not absorb the poisons of the 10 great poison masters of the Central Plains? Hearing this, Iner's face suddenly flushed with embarrassment. Wait. Is he trying to become the strongest in the world? For me? How could this be? For Tang Iner, one of the 3 beauties of the martial world, this was the first time a man had made such a bold declaration to her. Or at least, that was what she imagined. Xiaolong and Iner silently looked at each other in the small courtyard. She spoke first, feeling shy. Do you even know what you're saying, young hero? He was so flustered that sweat beaded on his forehead. Xiaolong could only scratch his head and give a sheepish smile. I don't know, he admitted, leaving her speechless. She placed a hand on her chest and explained. That path is incredibly difficult and full of hardships. It may take 10, 20 years, or even a lifetime to pursue. He widened his eyes in astonishment. Is it really that serious? He gasped. Iner blushed, covering her flushed face with her hands and letting out a soft humph. trying to change the subject. She continued, "All right, young hero Xiaolong, I heard that you're only 15 years old in 3 years, when you reach adulthood and are old enough to marry." He listened intently as she went on. "During these 3 years, if you can successfully subdue one of the 10 great venomous beasts, you might earn the absolute trust of the people." She fidgeted, tapping her index fingers together. "So, if you succeed, the chances of achieving your goal will be very high. The marriage, I mean." Suddenly flustered, Iner stood up and shouted, "Anyway, I will fully support you, young hero." Then, without waiting for a response, she quickly ran off. "All right, I'm leaving," she called back, leaving Xiaolong sitting there, dumbfounded. "Huh!" a voice called after her. "Miss Iner." She froze, breaking into a cold sweat. Does the young hero have more to say?" Xiaolong patted the spot next to him, his innocent face glowing as he explained. "It's about the treatment, even if it's just for 1 more hour, please stay before leaving." Iner turned to stone. Clenching her fists, she reluctantly returned to her seat. Meanwhile, Xiaolong gently stroked a few Xiao Wugong, casually reassuring her. "Don't worry, my little ones would never bite anyone." He remained oblivious to her face turning bright red. He whispered to his creatures, "Come here, my darlings." Iner's mind went completely blank. She couldn't comprehend the words of the person beside her. The sky was clear, sunlight shining on the ancient building. A voice echoed, Father? Mother? No, that's not what I meant." Inside a chamber, 3 people sat discussing. "It seems the young hero's talents haven't won over our daughter yet," Tang Wuqing remarked. "Did you notice anything this morning?" It seemed like something suspicious was going on between the two of them. He added. The lady holding a teacup respectfully replied, "It looks like the young hero has been rejected by Miss Iner, father." Stroking his chin, he interrupted, "All right then." Tang Zhishan remained silent, clasping his hands together, his aged eyes unreadable. A forced marriage would be unwise. It would be better to let their feelings grow naturally. The lady suggested, "Why not have Iner guide the young hero in martial arts? Seeing each other often might lead to feelings developing." Zhishan agreed. "That is a good idea." Wu Qing made the final decision. "Then, let's ask Master Yi whether it's possible to grant him the blessing of the celestial cleansing elixir. If there's an opportunity, it may bring them closer together." However, he hesitated. "But Iner doesn't seem very interested, father. Expecting too much might not be wise." Unmoved, he huffed, Let's give it a try." Outside the door, Iner had overheard the entire conversation. Just as the discussion continued, someone requested an audience. "Father, your daughter Iner requests an audience." Zhishan raised an eyebrow. "Iner?" The lady was equally puzzled. Why would she come at this hour? "Enter," he called, lowering her head. She slowly opened the door, looking around before awkwardly greeting. Everyone is here together, I see." The 3 elders were taken aback. With a respectful posture, Iner stated, "I have something to say." He repeated, "Something to say?" Her face turned red enough to drip blood. Stammering, she finally burst out, I will do as father has instructed." Eyes widening, he asked in shock, "Oh? The words I said? What do you mean?" Sitting beside the lady, she struggled to speak. "That is..." The lady embraced her, making a guess. "Could it be that young hero Xiaolong has caught your eye?" Iner remained silent, indirectly confirming it. The lady clapped her hands joyfully. "Oh my!" Zhishan stroked his beard teasingly. "Oh? Why so sudden? Didn't you say you weren't interested before?" Ignoring her embarrassment, he let the silence stretch before she stammered. "Young hero Xiaolong." Holding her chest, she proudly declared, "For me, the young hero has sworn to become the greatest in the world." Her parents were overjoyed, especially her father, who was astonished. "What? The greatest in the world?" Stroking his chin, he looked intrigued. "Explain that a little more," she continued. "Even though he was born with the 10 venomous body, for my sake, He vowed to conquer all 10 poisons and become the master of the 10 great venomous beasts. Her father and grandfather stared, dumbfounded. Wu Qing burst into laughter. Ha! That brat is truly reckless, thinking he can challenge the heavens. The lady added, making Yin Er's face even hotter. Oh my, is there really someone like that? Realizing their misunderstanding, she corrected them. I have agreed in my heart, but before young hero Xiaolong reaches adulthood, if he successfully subdues one of the 10 great venomous beasts, only then will the wedding be approved. She turned to them. Do you understand my meaning? Zhishan chuckled. Ha! Just a few of those creatures? He hasn't even managed that yet? Secretly, he calculated. If she's my daughter, he must at least do that much. The lady agreed. But men aren't always so perceptive. Yin Er hesitated. Should I clarify again? The lady denied it. No need, doesn't the young hero realize this is already settled? Shouldn't he try harder for you? Wu Qing concluded. For now, treat him as our future son-in-law. We shall pretend not to know anything. The family nodded in satisfaction. If he works hard, he will soon become part of our family. Two hands clenched together, a voice filled with excitement exclaimed, Truly admirable, benefactor. Yin Er, equally elated, tightened her grip. Haven't you completely won her heart already? Xiaolong gave an awkward laugh. Ahaha. Well, it's just determination and courage. She smiled with bright eyes but remained silent. Closing her eyes, she spoke seriously. Benefactor, today may be the last time. My grievances have been resolved, and my spirit will soon be freed. He listened and replied firmly. I understand. Yin Er sorrowfully asked. Is there anything we can do for you? He pondered for a moment before saying, If it's not too much trouble, could I take a look at your body? She was frozen in shock. Cheeks burning, thinking to herself, as expected, even my benefactor is a true man. Eventually she answered. Why yes, all right. Just as she was about to remove her robe, he panicked. Wait. Do you really need to take it off? She realized. Huh! Could it be? The little ones covered each other's eyes, but their ears still perked up curiously. I won't take it off anymore if that makes you feel more comfortable, and no, that's not what I meant. Xiaolong made a request. I just want to see the true form of Qing Ban Wugong. Yin Er awkwardly changed the subject. If that's what you meant. With that, she transformed into black mist, causing Xiaolong to exclaim excitedly. Wah! As the mist dissipated, a massive black beastly face with crimson eyes emerged. The colossal black centipede hesitated. If I look like this, is it all right, benefactor? Xiaolong gasped, panting. Huff! His eyes sparkled with excitement, and he grinned widely, revealing his wisdom tooth. Whoa! Whoa! It's real! It's huge! Xiaolong eagerly asked. Can I touch it just a little? But before waiting for an answer, his hand had already landed on a resistant red pincer. You already touched it! The centipede protested. Xiaolong ignored it. Can I keep touching a little more? Wow, it's so big! How do the joints even support this weight? His curiosity about Wugong was uncontrollable. When you move, the place your front legs pass through glows, right? The centipede swayed innocently. Front legs. Still using that overly polite tone, it responded. Oh, can I touch your legs too? Despite the centipede's silent protest. You already touched them. The little ones still hadn't opened their eyes, even though Xiaolong was rambling excitedly. How strong is its venom? And what about its eyes? Does it see with them, or does it sense things with its antennae? The giant centipede barely kept up. Huh? Oh, of course, I used my eyes. Xiaolong suddenly cried out. He clasped his hands together in a pleading motion. Then, let me touch your venomous fangs just once. This time, the centipede broke into a cold sweat. That might be a bit dangerous. Xiaolong protested in frustration. But you said you'd grant all my requests. The centipede raised its voice. Benefactor! What are you even saying? Meanwhile, Qing Ban Wugong thought to itself, are my daughters really going to be okay with this man? It could feel his hand reaching out. Xiao Long's face was full of desire as he caressed the centipede's leg. Oh, this chitin shell, how it glistens! Despite all its deep thoughts, everything about this situation just felt far too bizarre. Zhishan clasped his hands together and spoke solemnly. That's right, young hero. No, Xiao Long, he sit there, startled, listening. I've already heard Yiner's story. From now on, you are my son-in-law. Flustered, he tried to explain. But the 3-year trial. He crossed his arms and interrupted. The wedding will be held when you come of age, that is only natural. He waved his hands, still trying to argue. No, that's not what I meant. Madame cheerfully cupped her face. Oh my! Son-in-law, huh? Xiao Long, once again, welcome, I am your mother-in-law. Wu Xian was also pleased. Now that Hua Yiner has a destined partner, our Tang family will only have good things ahead. He turned to the person beside you. Yiner? She simply remained silent, curving her lips into a smile. Looking at her slightly bashful face, you pondered, what is going on? She was the one who set the conditions for this marriage, so why does it sound like she's already agreed? Xiao Long made a decision, for now, I'll just go along with it, he responded. Understood, I hope everyone will guide me well. While he was still confused, the 2 elders were already deep in discussion. Let's get to it, yes, let's begin. Zhishan reminded. Before you learn the Tang family's poison arts, there's something I want you to see. Curious, he asked. What is it? The 2 elders exchanged mysterious smiles. He pointed ahead and said, The 10,000 Poison Hall, I guarantee you will love it. Together, everyone set off for the 10,000 Poison Hall, explaining along the way. We have all been waiting for this moment. Wu Xian led the group, continuing. The moment you officially step into the 10,000 Poison Hall as a member of the Tang family, this is our tradition. The entire family arrived together, excited, he expressed. I am also looking forward to it, grandfather. His face flushed with excitement as you thought. The 10,000 Poison Hall, it must be a place filled with all sorts of poisons. His thoughts were interrupted when you glanced to the side, oh my god. Seeing Yiner standing there, radiant and dazzling under the sunlight, he couldn't help but admire her. As expected, a beauty looked stunning even in profile. Just like a painting, the couple in front turned to you with smiles. Ha! A chill ran down your spine, the old man commented. Young man, if you keep staring like that, my daughter will get shy. You're part of our family now, why are you still dazed? Then he whispered to Madame. Looks like our son-in-law is completely captivated by Yiner. Blushing, she reminded he. Xiao Long, you should watch where you're walking. He laughed awkwardly. Yes, ahaha. A while later, beneath the clear blue sky, clouds drifted lazily. Ahead stood a massive building embedded into a cliffside. 3 guards were stationed at its entrance. 2 of them, shirtless with bulging muscles, stood motionless, their eyes cold and sharp. Yu Jiang, the leader, cupped his hands in a respectful salute. You have arrived, Supreme Patriarch. Wu Xian replied casually. I want my grandson-in-law to see the 10,000 Poison Hall. Open the doors. Without hesitation, the commander obeyed. Yes, Supreme Patriarch. He glanced around. Evaluating the area, security here is incredibly strict. Like something from medieval times, the commander raised his voice. Open the gates! The 2 guards bellowed. Yes! And began pulling open the heavy doors. It took all their strength to move them, the commander murmured. Strange, we're opening the doors earlier than usual today. Then he stepped aside and gestured. Please enter. Zhishan signaled for he to step forward, but he stood frozen in awe. Seeing this, he walked ahead himself and introduced proudly. This is the iron gate forged from Kunwu's steel of the southern barbarians. Simply opening it is an honor. Watching the exhausted guards collapse from effort, he stammered. Really? Inside, the elder announced excitedly. We've arrived! The next words made Xiao Long's eyes widen in shock. This is the treasure trove that holds all the Tang family's poisons in Sichuan. Wu Xian cautioned. The poison hall of the 10,000 poison hall. Be careful not to touch anything. Rows of towering shelves stretched behind him, each filled with bottles and jars. Eagerly, he responded. Understood. So this is the poison hall. Everything is stored in bottles and medicine pouches? He nodded. That's right, there are various poisons here, like paralysis venom and sleep venom. With a proud smirk, he turned to Yinair. Why don't you explain to Xiaolong? I'm sure he'll enjoy that more. Madame giggled. Oh my, that's right. Blushing, Yinair replied. Yes, father. Scratching your head, he coughed awkwardly. She took Xiaolong's hand and led he forward. Come, I'll show you the strongest poisons of the Tang sect. Starting with the lesser golden poison. Reluctantly, he followed. Sure, he mean the strongest poisons, right? She continued. This is energy-draining poison. Martial artists in the Jianghu fear this one the most. If inhaled, you won't be able to use internal energy, so be careful. The elders chuckled. They're such an adorable pair, indeed. Ho ho ho. Without interrupting, they let her continue. There's also severing intestines poison, soul-destroying poison, blood-melting poison, and 7-step death poison. She pointed at a box. All of these are potent, but the most dangerous poison of the Tang sect is something else. Yinair placed a small seed into his hand. Take this, Xiaolong. Surprised, he examined it. A bean? It looks like a hyacinth bean. She confirmed. Not counting poisons from the 10 deadliest venomous creatures, this is the strongest poison we have. Before he could react, she continued. This herb symbolizes the Tang sect, castor bean. His mind raced. Castor bean? Memories from your past life resurfaced. Is this ricin? Ricin, a toxalbumin, just 2 milligrams could kill an adult. It was famously used in an assassination with an umbrella during the Cold War, he concluded. It's hundreds of thousands of times more lethal than cyanide, Yinair explained. This is the closest poison to our ultimate goal, colorless, tasteless, and invisible. That's why we call it golden poison, the most valuable poison of all. He gaped in silence. We call killing with this poison golden assassination. He swallowed nervously. Golden assassination? She smiled, but he felt a chill. Remember this, Xiaolong, the deadliest poison isn't the most painful or gruesome, it's the one that kills silently and inevitably. The Tang family's poison arts followed the same principle, silent and certain. The more he overthought things, the more his mind wandered to the assassin clans. Someone interrupted his train of thought. Heh, that's enough. Wu Qing spoke up. Next, let's go see the venomous creatures that Xiaolong has been looking forward to. Xiaolong's interest immediately piqued. Oh? You mean venomous creatures? The elder didn't deny it. If you like them, you can manage them, what do you think? A mix of excitement and joy surged through Xiaolong after hearing this promise. Really? Is it true? His heart brimmed with happiness, support for his passion. As they discussed the matter, a hurried voice suddenly rang out. Patriarch! Urgent news! The elder furrowed his brows. Jiubai? What's the matter? Jiubai, panting from his sprint, reported. You must go to Xuanwu Pavilion immediately. The elder repeated in confusion. Xuanwu Pavilion? Why there? Jiubai hesitated, then explained. It's about the clan elders. Wu Qing cut him off, raising his voice. Them again? Xiaolong silently observed. The clan elders, you mean the branch family members she mentioned? Jiubai simply made a casual gesture, lifting 2 fingers. 2 issues. He presented the first. The medicine we sent to the Sichuan city lord was ineffective. He has sent a letter of complaint. He hesitated before continuing. And the second issue? Xiaolong sighed in resignation. Shaking his head slightly, everyone listened attentively. It's about 10,000 Poison Hall. The elder frowned. Humph, news spreads fast. He turned to Xiaolong. Let's go, son-in-law, you're coming with me. Cold sweat broke out across Xiaolong's back. Why, yes, sir. At Xuanwu Pavilion, a group of people stood outside, deep in discussion. Suddenly, an old man called out. Patriarch! The others turned their heads. Two of the elders, seeing the family enter so calmly, were furious. How could you make such an important decision on your own? That's right. How could you marry off Nair, our precious granddaughter, to an orphan of unknown origins? Jishan's expression darkened. What did you just say? Orphan? Unknown origins? Green internal energy surged from his clenched fists. Are you insulting my son-in-law? The elders quickly denied it. And no, that's not what we meant. It's just the truth. Wu Qing, standing with his hands behind his back, spoke calmly. I made the decision, do you have a problem with it? The elder stammered. The Grand Patriarch. Yet, the old master stood there, ignored by all. Xiaolong's dazed expression showed a hint of contempt as he processed their words. Grand Patriarch, please advise the Patriarch. How could he entrust the management of 10,000 Poison Hall to an outsider whose capabilities are unproven? But Xiaolong only smiled faintly. I already agreed, didn't I? Noticing his expression, Nair whispered apologetically. Sorry, Xiaolong, he sighed. Oh dear, I've made her worry again, but she's not the one who needs to apologize. In the midst of the tense confrontation, a voice rang out. Apologies for interrupting, esteemed elders. Xiaolong stepped forward, his eyes shrouded in shadow. It seems this is happening because my abilities are in doubt, so… He pounded his chest confidently. If I prove my capabilities, will the elders accept me? One elder was stunned. What? Xiaolong's sly grin revealed gleaming white teeth as he raised a single finger. For example, solving the Sichuan city lord's problem? Nair covered her mouth in concern. Xiaolong, what are you planning? In his mind, Xiaolong reflected. I'm not one to show off, I won't let anyone control me. But his gaze turned cold, his star-like eyes gleaming with a dangerous smirk. If anyone dares to interfere with my peaceful life alongside my beloved beasts… The air grew chilling. I won't let it slide. Wu Qing and Jishan silently watched Xiaolong, and the three of them remained motionless for a long time. The elders were so furious that they gritted their teeth and challenged him. How dare you? One of them couldn't hold back, pointed at him, and scolded. The elders are speaking, and a brat like you dares to interrupt? Another elder added. Exactly. Moreover, do you even know the contents of the letter from the governor of Sichuan? How dare you speak? Hearing such harsh words, the family head hesitated. Meanwhile, Nair and her mother secretly disdained the elders. These old men were getting more and more unreasonable. That was why they had recommended a young man from a prestigious family to be their son-in-law. Xiaolong's eyes were dull with contempt. These old men, I've had enough. This is ridiculous. He recalled his past life when he was a live streamer focused on animals. Hello, everyone. Many comments flooded the screen. Oh, isn't that a king cobra? Who's the girl next to him? Explain. Fabre betrayed us. I heard he married a venomous creature. Explain. 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 Let me take a bite. Let me take a bite. Let me take a bite. This comment was banned from the channel. His live stream had gained massive popularity, with over 1 million subscribers and an average of more than 3,000 concurrent viewers. Facing everyone, Xiaolong spoke in a firm and commanding tone. I've heard that the elders have not yet acknowledged me as the son-in-law of the Tang family. That means, as of now, I'm still a guest. Such a trivial matter didn't bother him, of course. With a large fan base, being attacked unprovoked was nothing new. His eyes darkened as he continued. Furthermore, I didn't just help Nair, the Tang family's precious daughter. I also saved the family head by eliminating the blood-handed Rakshasa, Tak and Yang. He clasped his hands together and coldly questioned. Do the elders dare to insult a benefactor and an esteemed guest right in front of everyone? Is that the etiquette and tradition of the Tang family? He thought to himself. As a streamer, being attacked by a crowd is something I'm all too familiar with, so much so that it's almost endearing. The elders, who had been so aggressive, now hesitated and avoided his gaze. Ahem. That's not exactly what we meant. We just got a little carried away and misspoke. Xiaolong let out a cold laugh, his eyes filled with malice. Useless. Wu Qing watched him in astonishment, the elders still weren't convinced. But the blood-handed Rakshasa, Tang Yang. Eliminating him sounds too far-fetched. Zhishan affirmed. Xiaolong isn't lying. Then, he pulled out a book from his chest. Here, take a look. The elders were taken aback. What? What is this? After reading the book, they couldn't contain their shock. The Blood Poison Claw Manual? A manual written in blood. It really belongs to the blood cult. Zhishan crossed his arms proudly. Xiaolong, show us Wugong. Xiaolong nodded. Yes, father-in-law. The elders repeated in disbelief. Wugong! He beckoned to the creature in his arms. Come out, my darlings. The hem of his robe wriggled as if something was moving inside. The elders couldn't take their eyes off it. 3 little centipedes crawled out of his clothes, squealing excitedly. They were utterly shocked. What? Golden centipedes? Zhishan proudly declared. These are the offspring of the Qing Ban Wugong. My son-in-law has been raising them. If I told you that they bit Tang Yang to death, would you believe me? One elder's face turned pale. The Qing Ban Wugong? This young man can control them? Zhishan sneered. If I don't acknowledge him as my son-in-law, then what should I call him? Xiaolong cradled the little centipedes in his hand, looking every bit like a villain. Now, my darlings, don't bite anyone, otherwise they'll end up as blackened corpses, just like Tang Yang. This time, the elders were so frightened that they broke out in a cold sweat. They had no choice but to compromise. Ahem. Did we ever say we wouldn't acknowledge him? No, it's just that there are procedures to follow, and since you bypassed them. The family head got upset. Wu Qing clasped his hands and sighed. Fine, let's put the son-in-law matter aside for now, but why are you opposing the decision regarding the 10,000 Poisons Hall? The elders argued. Well, he isn't officially part of the family yet. How can we entrust the 10,000 Poisons Hall to a mere teenager? Hearing their nonsense, Xiaolong scoffed. Exactly. How can we hand over something as important as the 10,000 Poisons Hall? Zhishan calmly responded. Then it's simple. He turned to Xiaolong and asked. Can you prove your capabilities? Xiaolong assured him. Of course. Then, rubbing his hands together mischievously, he said, to prove that I am worthy of the Tang family, I will handle this matter in the Tang family's way. With just one sentence. By using poison. The elders were dumbstruck as if they had been struck by lightning. What? You want to poison the governor of Sichuan? Xiaolong blinked in confusion. Huh! Aren't we talking about sending medicine, not killing people? The elders lamented to Zhishan. Family head. See? He's too ruthless. Xiaolong scratched his cheek in bewilderment. Wait. But the Tang family specializes in poisons, don't we? The next day, Xiaolong and Wu Qing stood facing each other. Wu Qing encouraged him. Fine, if a challenge is needed, so be it, but starting today, you will begin training in the Tang family's 5 poison return art. Xiaolong's eyes lit up. Oh! His imagination ran wild as he flexed his arms. So, it's physical training again? Wu Qing nodded. Your body will naturally adapt to martial arts as you train. He pulled out a cloth scroll from his chest and instructed. The Tang clan focuses on practicality, so you will learn techniques that can be immediately applied in real combat. When he unfurled the scroll, a vast assortment of hidden weapons appeared, ranging from large to small, from difficult to easy to use. Wu Qing gestured toward them. These are concealed weapons, needles, coins, darts, sand, and even swords and knives. Though there are many types, these 5 are the primary ones. Then he asked Xiaolong. Do you know which type is the easiest to use? Xiaolong pondered. Probably daggers or throwing knives. Wu Qing nodded approvingly. Correct, and which is the hardest to use? Xiaolong guessed. Probably sand, since you have to scatter the powder? Wu Qing shook his head. Wrong, the hardest to use is the needle. Xiaolong was intrigued. Needles? Because they're small and thin, so they're hard to throw? Wu Qing simply responded. Because you must remember exactly where you threw them, I'd better demonstrate while explaining. He then pulled something out of his chest. Xiaolong's eyes widened in shock. A calligraphy brush? Wu Qing yanked off the bristles, scattering them into the air with a swift motion. Xiaolong was stunned. Huh! Each white bristle floated midair, glowing brilliantly. They gradually became sharp, pointing downward to the ground, emitting a chilling blue aura. He curled up, groaning. Ah! As the needle shot down right next to his feet, fearfully, he speculated, are these feathers piercing into my flesh like needles? Xiaolong carefully observed the feathers falling all over the ground around the two of them. He closed his eyes and spoke. Tang's sect has a type of hidden weapon called Manhwa, a secret technique that covers the entire area with hundreds or even thousands of needles. Startled, he thought, does this mean I have to fight the enemy while surrounded by these needles? He shouted in fear. If there are needles everywhere, then there's no place to step. The elder narrowed his eyes and reminded him. That's why you must remember, so you don't end up harming yourself. He was speechless. Good heavens, Xiaolong raised his hand in protest. So. Even the positions of the needles that are knocked away or fall down, I have to remember all of them? The response came. Of course. Wu Qing tapped his temple with pride. If you wish to master the 5 poisons, you must at least remember 100 positions. Iner could already remember nearly 1,000 when she was still the poison goddess. He paid no mind to the pale expression on the young man's face. In a small courtyard, Xiaolong lay exhausted on a stone slab. A voice called out. Xiaolong, is this good enough? He looked up and greeted the person. Ah, Miss Iner. Seeing her fully covered appearance, he hesitated. You are. Iner adjusted her hat and replied. I heard you were planning to catch Xiongfeng, so I prepared this if you don't need it then. Xiongfeng referred to the bumblebee. Awkwardly, he took the hat. It's fine, I was planning to wait, but with this, I can catch it myself. She repeated. Wait? You were planning to wait for Xiongfeng? He gave a mysterious smile. You'll understand when we get there. Ignoring her confused expression, he simply said. Shall we? The two, now in protective gear, set out. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. Do you know where Xiongfeng's nest is? She was already prepared. I've found a nest nearby, we can go there right away. Iner suddenly stroked her chin. But you've read the letter from the Lord of Sichuan City, haven't you? Without hesitation, he replied. Of course, Miss Iner. Her face turned red as her voice grew louder. Little Xiaolong is still young, so I'm a bit worried. Did you really understand the contents of the letter? Caught off guard, he stammered. Then quickly assured her. Of course. That letter is something very important for a man's yang energy. She cut him off. Enough. You seem to understand this topic quite well, he answered matter-of-factly. That's right. The two young people turned visibly flustered. Xiaolong calmly analyzed. The major issue the Lord of Sichuan City is facing is. As he reached the final 2 words, impotence, he met Iner's probing gaze. Xiaolong, you sure are knowledgeable for your age. She looked at him suspiciously from head to toe. He awkwardly deflected. Well, I live alone, so. Unwilling to hear more, she ran ahead while changing the topic. Oh, let's hurry up. He barely had time to react. Huh? Miss Iner? The two searched the forest for a long time. At one point, she had to pull him back when he got distracted by a strange animal. Iner excitedly called out. We're here. Xiaolong. His eyes lit up. There it is. Before them lay a rocky cave. This must be it. Curious, she asked. But Xiaolong, what do you mean by finding a beehive without bees? He didn't answer immediately. While adjusting his hat, he explained. Even though we're looking for Xiongfeng, we're not actually catching them. She blinked in confusion. Huh? Xiaolong and Iner cautiously approached the cave entrance. He educated her. The venomous insect we need is usually found in small beehives. She didn't quite understand. Poisonous insects live inside beehives? He continued searching but still responded. His face flushed slightly from excitement. Lucky. It looks like this hive has one. He skillfully reached out and grabbed the creature. Got you, little guy! Yin-Er nervously clenched her fists. Xiaolong, that insect. Could it be? He confirmed. Yes, we're not here to catch Xiong Feng, we're here for this insect. Lifting a small, black creature, Xiaolong declared. This little thing will solve the Lord of Sichuan City's problem. Yin-Er was shocked as she looked at him and asked with curiosity. Xiaolong, this insect. She paused for a moment before continuing. Is it a ground beetle? Excitedly, he folded the insect and, with teary eyes, replied. Yes, that's right. He was surprised and thought to himself. So it's called a ground beetle here? At that moment, a tiny insect was trembling in fear, caught between two chopsticks, he explained. This insect was found in the nest of the Xiong Feng. In the Central Plains, it is called a ground beetle, while in Korea, it is known as the leaf-biting bee. However, this insect belongs to the Meloidae family. Hearing this, she was surprised and said, But ground beetles are found in the Xiong Feng's nest? I didn't know that. Smiling, he added, Their life cycle is quite special. One of them creates a protective barrier, while another carries its offspring on its back. The reproductive method of the Meloidae family is quite strange. Typically, when they lay eggs, they either protect them or create a safe environment for them to hatch. She was even more surprised when she heard the next piece of information. But this species only lays eggs. Small clusters of eggs appeared everywhere, on rocks, anywhere. They even appeared underground. They simply laid their eggs wherever they wanted, all in one place, without any concern. The larvae then miraculously hatched and transformed into muscular creatures. Somehow, the larvae of the leaf-biting bee would emerge and start climbing to the highest point nearby. At this moment, the larvae sensed something unusual. When they reached the peak, they formed a peculiar shape. All the larvae gathered closely together, each holding two small golden pom-poms. They clung to one another and pretended to be a flower. Then, something happened. A female bumblebee, from the Bombini subfamily, flew over. Thinking it was a real flower, she exclaimed, Oh wow! She was flying around, searching for flowers when she came across this strange bloom, created by the smiling larvae trying to attract her. She asked, Since when has there been a flower here? Suddenly, a hand reached out and touched the forehead of one of the larvae as they approached. In an instant, the larvae's tiny hand stretched toward the bumblebee. They quickly clung to her body, and then, all the other larvae followed suit, and just like that, the game was over. The bumblebee nest was doomed. At that moment, Xiaolong pointed at the insect and said, I don't know why they specifically target bumblebees, but I've heard that it's the best environment for ground beetle larvae to develop. Hearing this, Yin-Er was surprised and responded, Really? She then looked at the insect with sympathy and said, Poor, adorable bumblebees. He chuckled softly. There's no other way. Suddenly, she remembered something and asked with concern, But isn't this the type of toxin that causes skin burns? I know that consuming too much of it can be fatal. Xiaolong confirmed. Yes, it can cause skin burns. When it burns the skin, red spots will appear all over the arms. The orange liquid secreted from the leaf-biting bee's body contains a toxin called cantharidin. If this substance comes into contact with the skin, it will cause blisters similar to burns. Unexpectedly, Yin-Er blushed and asked, But does it also have that effect? He confirmed. Yes, until the toxin is expelled from the body. Then, Xiaolong smiled innocently and hesitantly said, It can make a man rise up. Hearing this, she suddenly covered her face. Blushing like a tomato, she quickly ran away and shouted, That's enough. Let's go back to the 10,000 Venoms Hall. Panicked, he called after her, Wait. Let me catch a few more. The ground beetle, the leaf-biting bee, was successfully captured. Some time later, Xiaolong and Yin-Er returned. Back at the 10,000 Venoms Hall, he instructed the martial artists on how to prepare the medicine. He gently spoke to everyone. Now listen carefully. He explained the steps for preparation. First, dry the ground beetle and grind it into powder. Assume that 1/10 of it is toxic, so. After thinking for a moment, he continued. If you consume 3 fen, that's 1175 milligrams of toxin, it will certainly be life-threatening. For every gene, which is 375 kilograms of body weight, if you consume 3/10 fen, 125 milligrams of toxin, half of those who eat it will die. Upon hearing this, the martial artists all broke out in cold sweat. Yin-Er looked at Xiaolong in astonishment. He was still passionately instructing them. So, prepare the medicine with a dosage of 1/10 fen, 375 milligrams, equivalent to about 10 drops of water, or 351 milliliters. As soon as he finished speaking, he asked the martial artists, Do you understand? Everyone was sweating at the overwhelming amount of calculations, thinking, My brain is about to explode. At that moment, one of the martial artists removed his mask and praised. Such detailed explanations! Your mathematical skills are truly exceptional. Then, he added, I will definitely succeed. Hearing this, Xiaolong happily said, Haha, I'm counting on all of you. Some time passed. That night, in the 10,000 Venoms Hall, a voice spoke. I never expected ground beetles to have such an effect. Tang Wuqing said. It seems I should reconsider the poisons currently in Tang Sek's possession. Yin-Er softly responded. Yes, I think so too. Then, he asked, Is he also good at mathematics? She slowly replied. Yes, he divided 1 fen into 10 parts, and said it was equivalent to the weight of 10 drops of water. Hearing this, he sighed in amazement. Truly remarkable. At that moment, he absent-mindedly imagined Xiaolong smiling and gently stroking the small creature. Then he spoke. I thought I knew a lot about poisons, but he has exceeded my expectations. The more I learn, the more I realize he is a treasure of the Tang family. Suddenly, he looked at her with a sly expression and asked, So, do you like him even more now than you did before? Yin-Er hesitated, her eyes darting elsewhere as she stammered, Gee, grandfather. Then, she hesitantly continued, I just feel that I was too rash before, so I feel guilty. He comforted her. All right, just treat him well from now on. Then, he asked, But how do we test the effectiveness of the medicine? Upon hearing this, her face flushed red with embarrassment, as if it was about to burst into flames. Ah well. She covered her face with her hands and mumbled. The branch elders are too arrogant. As she spoke, she imagined Xiaolong's sinister demeanor. So, the family will punish them, she thought. Suddenly, someone asked, What? Wuqing then burst into laughter. Ha ha, you are indeed an interesting one. In the blink of an eye, morning arrived. A warrior stood before everyone. All eyes were fixed in one direction. Someone handed Xiaolong a small box and said, Xiaolong, here is your medicine. He was surprised. Oh, this is? The warrior respectfully explained, Yes, we mixed licorice powder and honey to make it sweeter, so it's easier for you to drink. Xiaolong was taken aback and thought to himself, such attention to detail. He opened the box. Inside was a single pill. Examining it, he asked, Did you prepare it exactly as I instructed? The man replied, Of course, Lord Xiaolong, we followed your specified dosage precisely. Others looked on with skepticism. One scoffed, Humph, making such a big deal out of it. Another agreed, Yeah, acting as if it's some groundbreaking creation. As murmurs spread through the crowd, Tang Zhishan calmly spoke. Silence. Then, turning to Xiaolong, he asked, Now that the medicine has been prepared, how will you prove its effectiveness? Xiaolong replied, Prove it? Suddenly, a hand slammed down on the table with a loud voice. Of course, you must prove it. An elder stood up and bellowed, How can we send an untested poison to the governor of Sichuan? Another chimed in, That's right. If something goes wrong, it could be dangerous. Hearing this, Xiaolong calmly responded, Then I guess there's no other choice. Warrior, yes, sir. Everyone turned their eyes toward him. The warrior presented the box of pills to the crowd. A wave of hesitation swept through them. An elder picked up a pill and frowned. Are you suggesting that we test the medicine ourselves? Who knows what's in this? Another person sneered, "This brat, not only is he an outsider, but he also harbors dark intentions." At that moment, a cunning smile formed on Xiaolong's face. "Oh!" he called out, "Grandfather." Wu Qing turned to him and asked, "What is it?" Iner looked at Xiaolong, who was radiating a mischievous aura. He smirked. "Didn't you once tell me that those who practice the Tang sect's martial arts fear no poison? Isn't that true?" His grandfather confirmed. "That's right." Xiaolong then mocked the elders. "Then look at yourselves, are you afraid?" Even his grandfather added fuel to the fire. Hearing my grandson-in-law say that, it does seem to be the case." Xiaolong chuckled smugly. "Come on, all of you are elders of the family, having reached the level of complete poison immunity. Surely, you're not afraid of a little ground beetle toxin." Unable to endure the taunts any longer, one elder crushed the pill in his hand with fury. Then, in unison, the others threw the pills into their mouths. "Ha! As if we'd be afraid of such a low-grade poison. That's right. You've underestimated us." As one of them angrily chewed on the pill, he suddenly roared, "If this has no effect, you'll regret it. We will restore discipline to the clan." The pill was chewed forcefully. Moments passed in silence. Feeling no change, the elder smirked confidently. "Ha!" Pointing to the others, he declared, "See? Nothing is happening." Before he could finish, he suddenly felt a small, monstrous force surging within his body. His face twisted in horror. The entire room turned dark with tension. Sweat poured down their faces. That day, order was restored to the clan. By dawn, a resounding voice commanded, "Send the medicine to the governor of Sichuan. It is highly effective." A short while later, all the elders left. Wu Qing watched them and muttered, "As grandfather said, simply provoking them about poison was enough to trap them." He chuckled smugly. They're nothing more than prideful old men. They had no choice but to act." Then he added, "But don't resent them, they did this for the sake of the family." Xiaolong was puzzled. "Is that so?" His grandfather smiled lightly. "After all, they are still family." Xiaolong seemed to understand. "I see." At that moment, Iner rushed in. Out of breath, she gasped, "Xiaolong! Big trouble!" He looked at her, adjusting his breath. "What is it, miss?" She hesitated before saying, blushing, "Our pet." "There's a problem with our pet." Xiaolong blinked in confusion. "Huh?" Suddenly, a strong hand grabbed his collar in anger. A deep voice growled, "Grandson-in-law." Xiaolong struggled to breathe. "Ack!" Fury erupted. "What do you mean by our pet?" Still clueless, Xiaolong stammered, What are you talking about?" Tang Wuqing placed his hand on Xiaolong's shoulder, making him utterly confused. "You two have children?" he asked. "It seems I haven't taught you properly." Iner blushed and immediately refuted. "Not children. It's Wugong. Wugong that Xiaolong is raising." Hearing this, Xiaolong's mouth dropped open, at a complete loss for words. Then, he suddenly shouted, "Wugong!" He recalled his recent rigorous training sessions. "Lately, I've noticed you've been training harder, so I asked my sister to take care of the little Wugong." Iner explained, alarmed. Xiaolong turned frantically to Iner, flailing his arms. "My precious ones! Did something happen to them? Let me see!" Iner quickly stepped aside as Xiaolong rushed forward. Xiaolong, they're not here!" she cried out. The elder beside them gaped in astonishment. A moment later, the little Wugong lay exhausted before them. After receiving a slap from Iner, Xiaolong finally calmed down. The three of them approached the Wugong to examine their condition. "They suddenly started moving?" Xiaolong asked. "They've been fine since morning," Iner responded anxiously. "I just hope they aren't in pain." Looking at the creatures, their bodies appeared more angular, their colors more translucent, and their shells seemed unusual. Realizing something, Xiaolong brightened up. "This is it. Seems there's no need to worry." As the Wugong wriggled on the ground, Xiaolong explained, "They're just molting, like snakes do. As they grow, they shed their old skin. It must be time." "Molting?" Iner asked in surprise. "Exactly," Xiaolong confirmed. Suddenly, one of the Wugong began exhibiting strange behavior. "Xiaolong, look!" Iner called out. One of the creatures was gradually emerging from its old skin. "The head!" Iner exclaimed. All three of them watched in fascination. Wu Qing was amazed. Oh, how incredible! Iner's eyes widened. Xiaolong, the other two are about to molt too. One by one, the Wugongs slithered out of their old shells, revealing their smooth, shiny new bodies. The sunlight reflected off their fresh forms. They had all completed their molting process. The three onlookers were stunned. They seem bigger than before, Iner remarked. After a while, she turned to Xiaolong and asked, "What are their names?" "Names?" Xiaolong was taken aback. "They don't have any." He rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought. The Wugong remained still, basking in the sunlight. "All right," he finally said. "I'll call them Wu-Yi, Wu-Er, and Wu-San." Iner immediately objected. "No way!" She raised her voice. "Wugong can live for 1,000 years and transform into dragons. They need majestic names that suit their dragon-like form." Xiaolong chuckled. "Ha ha, my lady, there's no way Wugong will turn into dragons after 1,000 years." Behind them, Wu Qing wiped sweat from his forehead, as if guilty of something. "Well, actually, Wugong that live 1,000 years are still called dragons," he admitted. "Let's name them heavenly dragons." Hearing this, Xiaolong immediately caught on. "Ah, so you were the one who taught this nonsense?" Shaking off the distraction, Xiaolong returned to the topic. "All right, their names." After a moment of contemplation, he said, "Let's call them Suo Xiangbin." Iner repeated in confusion. "Suo Xiangbin?" Xiaolong explained the meaning behind each name. The first to emerge is Suo, first, the second is Xiang, fragrance, and the third, with its shiny shell, is Bin, glossy. Iner's eyes sparkled as she whispered, "Suo Xiangbin." Wu Qing, feeling slightly awkward, commented, "Isn't naming offspring usually the father's responsibility?" And so, the little Wugong officially had their names somewhere else. Xiaolong suddenly felt an odd sensation within him, causing him to stumble. After a whole day had passed, the Wugong clung tightly to him once more. Sitting on a chair, he sighed in exhaustion. "My body still isn't completely dry, but at least I can move now," he muttered. "Ugh, still not used to this." He groaned. "You all have gotten so much heavier." Before he could finish his complaint, one of the Wugongs suddenly jumped off his body, straight onto his face. Arg! The biggest change was their size. Xiaolong lay flat, groaning, with one cheek swollen. Originally, the Wugong were only as big as sausages. Now, they were the size of his forearm. They seemed to be apologizing, their tiny voices squeaking. "Sorry for being heavy." Xiaolong could only let out a helpless squeal. "Eek, eek, eek." The creatures snuggled against him, clearly finding his chest too cramped now. Instead, they clung tightly to his arms and waist. Just then, a voice rang out, catching Xiaolong's attention. "Ha ha! Look at that! What did I tell you?" It was two people walking past, chatting. "As expected of the Sichuan Tang family," one of them said. "Let's go to Jilu," the other responded, and with that they left. They laughed with satisfaction. "Making money is so easy, ha ha ha!" You looked at them in confusion. "What's going on?" In an old house, Tang Zhishan stroked his beard and spoke. "This is indeed great news." He turned to ask Xiaolong and Iner. "Didn't you recently send your self-made medicine to the Lord of Sichuan City?" Xiaolong replied. "Yes, that's right." A man, teary-eyed, raised his thumb in approval as Zhishan recounted. "I heard that the Lord of Sichuan used your medicine, and it worked very well. As a result, he sent a large reward along with his gratitude." Hearing this, both of them were surprised and exclaimed, "Really?" Zhishan laughed heartily and praised Xiaolong. "You've only just become my son-in-law, yet I'm already benefiting greatly. You've helped me so much." Xiaolong scratched his head humbly. "Haha, it was nothing." Then, Zhishan rested his hand on the table and spoke with intent. "So." He stroked his mustache and made a decision. "I will gift you a spiritual elixir. But even if I give it to you, you will humbly refuse, won't you?" Xiaolong, still not quite understanding, asked. "A spiritual elixir? You mean?" He thought to himself, previously, he mentioned that spiritual elixirs could enhance internal energy. Yin-Er was eager to know. Father, if it's a spiritual elixir, what exactly is it? Sichuan explained. It's nothing too extraordinary. Sitting upright, he looked at them seriously and concluded. The honey of the Jin Mao Feng Wang. Xiaolong was puzzled and imagined a bee. A wasp. Honey. Honey? He recalled hearing that internal energy was crucial for becoming a martial arts master. Then I'll accept it, he said excitedly. With a bright smile, he expressed his gratitude. Thank you, father-in-law. At the same time, Yin-Er also called out to Sichuan. Father! But her tone was filled with indignation. She glared at him and questioned. You called it a reward, but it's just honey. Sichuan, feeling guilty, began sweating profusely. Ah, well. About that. She angrily confronted him, grabbing Xiaolong's hand, making him blush. This matter concerning Xiaolong is no small deal. Even though the Jin Mao Feng Wang is a mid-tier venomous insect, its honey is the lowest grade elixir among spiritual medicines. You can't be stingy with his reward. He earned it. Frustrated, she continued. At the very least, it should be a spiritual elixir that boosts internal energy for a year. This one only grants 2 months. Hearing this, Sichuan felt guilty. Even though it's a spiritual elixir, the cost of making it is expensive. But Yin-Er was determined to demand justice for Xiaolong. Compared to what Xiaolong has done, it's still too cheap. Sichuan, with tears in his eyes, sighed. A daughter is like spilled water, never to return. Returning to the original atmosphere, Xiaolong asked, Father-in-law, what exactly is the Jin Mao Feng Wang? Sichuan cleared his throat and explained. It's a mid-tier venomous insect commonly found in the forest. It's a large wasp, about the size of a small dog. Xiaolong's eyes lit up with excitement. The size of a dog? That's amazing. But before he could celebrate further, Yin-Er pouted in frustration and interrupted. Xiaolong, wait a moment. I'm really mad right now. Seeing his daughter's reaction, Sichuan quickly tried to justify himself. Yin-Er, that's not what I meant. I thought Xiaolong would want to personally go find the Jin Mao Feng Wang, so I chose this reward. Xiaolong pondered. Personally? Immediately he slammed his hand on the table, his eyes filled with anticipation and determination. Father-in-law, you want me to go find the Jin Mao Feng Wang myself? Behind him, Yin-Er panicked and tried to stop him. But she was too late. Sichuan raised his thumb and confirmed. That's right. Xiaolong recalled his past and found the idea incredibly thrilling. Going directly to collect the honey? When I was a YouTuber, I gathered honey so many times. Without hesitation, he and Sichuan excitedly dashed out the door, leaving Yin-Er behind. Let's go, father-in-law. I'm very experienced in honey collection, ha ha. Sichuan laughed. I knew you'd love this idea. The two of them, completely in sync, chatted excitedly. Xiaolong asked, What does the Jin Mao Feng Wang look like? Sichuan casually replied, Of course, it looks like a wasp. Yin-Er watched them in exasperation and sighed helplessly. The grand estate returned to silence. The honey-collecting journey had begun. In a distant forest, a dispute was taking place. This is valuable information from my father-in-law, so I thought there wouldn't be any competitors. We arrived first, so the golden-haired wasp honey belongs to us. What? We bought this information legally, so it belongs to us. Xiaolong and Sichuan arrived and were surprised by the scene before them. Huh! The two groups argued endlessly. You bought the intel? So did we. Don't tell me. You bought it from a curly-haired guy with a big mole on his face? The other group was shocked. How do you know that? Xiaolong suddenly recalled 2 men passing by the other day, one with curly hair and a big mole near his eye. Could it be them? He thought to himself, they sold the same information to different people. One of the men, furious, clenched his teeth and cursed. Those bastards! Then an enraged man shouted. How dare they humiliate the Sichuan Tang clan right in Sichuan? Hearing that, both sides were startled. What? The Sichuan Tang clan? Xiao Long's plan to collect honey had just taken an unexpected turn. The space echoed with Tang Zhishan's words of advice. Xiao Long, since this is your first time going out, you must be extremely careful, and never forget that you are a member of the Tang family. Hearing this, Xiao Long responded. Yes, sir. Zhishan looked off into the distance. A large group of people appeared, he added. Take them with you, you must also learn how to manage people. Xiao Long was startled. Huh? You want me to lead them? But Miss Iner. Zhishan laughed heartily, interrupting him. Haha, you silly boy. Iner is yours, you are her lifelong partner, you are the most important one. Xiao Long was shocked. Partner? Standing behind him. She added. You'll do great, Xiao Long, I'll help you too. Excited, he responded. I will do my best. A while later, deep in the forest, two groups stood facing each other. Xiao Long was anxious. What should I do? He hesitantly asked Yu Jiang. What should we do? Should we share information to them? The squad leader frowned. Share? To whom? He crossed his arms and analyzed the situation. Who are they to demand a share from the Sichuan Tang family? Iner, standing beside him, was also furious. I don't even know who they are, but they sure are bold. A powerful green aura radiated from her. Selling off information that the Sichuan Tang family purchased? The opposing group seemed frightened. Hick, poisonous flower Iner! A direct descendant of the Tang clan is here? One of them clasped his hands together nervously. A scar-faced man stepped forward and bowed. We, the Fengyan sect, did not know this matter was related to the Sichuan Tang family. We will withdraw. The others quickly followed suit. The Yunhu sect also seeks to withdraw. We're leaving too, damn it! I'm going to skin that guy alive! The Baiyu Ghost sect will not interfere either. With that, they all fled. Xiao Long stood dumbfounded. Huh! Just like that? He thought to himself, is the Sichuan Tang family really that powerful? Returning to reality, he asked. So it's over? Yu Jiang was uncertain. Probably not, those four sects won't just retreat like that. As he predicted, their enemies were hiding behind large trees. The squad leader took a few steps forward and analyzed. First, they will find a good position nearby. It's clear they are lurking close and waiting for an opportunity. Jiao Bai, locate them. A subordinate responded. Yes, sir. Xiao Long silently observed. Iner reassured him. Don't worry, Xiao Long. In the dense forest, a voice echoed. My bees! The three of them watched as bees landed on a large tree trunk. One bee flew away. Two others returned to their hive. Hiding in the bushes, Xiao Long excitedly shouted. That's Jin Mao Feng Wang! Iner added. This is my first time seeing one too. It's huge. The bees continued their work in the hive. Outside, the three of them chatted. Xiao Long spoke first. Aren't they adorable? Iner agreed. Their fur looks so soft and fluffy. Yu Jiang, trying to sound knowledgeable, added. That's why it's called Jin Mao Feng Wang. Xiao Long observed them for a while before muttering. Still, this colony is quite small, only a few hundred bees. Can a hive really grow this big? The bees kept working. Iner was surprised by his statement. Sea colony? Xiao Long explained. Ah, that's what you call a whole group of bees, usually. A hive contains around 5,000 to 7,000 bees. Iner was even more shocked. Wait, you can tell that without looking inside? Xiao Long replied without hesitation. You just need to watch how many are entering and leaving the hive to estimate. At that moment, someone appeared behind them. Jiao Bai knelt on one knee and reported. Squad leader, we've found the four sects. Hearing this, the leader asked. Oh? Where are they? The subordinate hesitated. Recalling what he had observed earlier, he realized, those damn people really are on the opposite side. Although I couldn't see exactly what they were doing, they are definitely planning to act soon. Yu Jiang pondered for a moment. That means they're waiting for nightfall and will extract the honey using the Tang family's method. Xiao Long was surprised. The Tang family's method? The leader began to explain. If you burn mugwort leaves and let the smoke enter the hive, the bees will become docile. That's when we can go in and take the honey. Xiaolong was amazed. Oh, what a clever method! Jiubai was about to agree but suddenly realized something. Wait, but the wind is blowing toward us. Everyone froze. Ah! Suddenly, Xiaolong shouted. I've got it! Jiubai asked. You've come up with a solution? Excitedly, Xiaolong explained. If the wind is blowing toward us, doesn't that mean we can use it to hide our scent? Yinair nodded in agreement. That's right. Xiaolong sprang to his feet. Then I'll go for a bit and be right back. Startled, Yinair rushed forward and grabbed his sleeve, pulling him back. No, Xiaolong! Jin Mao Feng Wang is a mid-tier venomous creature. It's too dangerous. But Xiaolong continued forward. Just once. I just want to touch it once and then I'll come right back. Suddenly, a rock flew toward them, making them jump in surprise. Ah! More stones followed. One of them headed straight for the beehive. The two of them immediately realized what was happening. Huh! A swarm of bees erupted from the hive in a fury. Seeing this, Yinair quickly lifted Xiaolong. Run first! Xiaolong struggled. Ugh, ugh! Everything descended into chaos. Then, silence returned to the forest. As the sun set, Xiaolong sat on a rock, deep in thought. There's no way, huh? Images flashed through his mind. I need to move against the wind to light a fire. But I'm stuck between the forceps and the bees. Jin Mao Feng Wang is different from the bees I know. He recalled having to run earlier, even from 30 meters away. I could still hear the buzzing of their wings. Not even hornets are that intense. Suddenly, a voice called from behind him. Xiaolong, come here! He turned to see who it was. Ah, Miss Huayin! Yinair handed him a few xiao wugong. They seemed to have finished eating, since they kept flying around. I brought them here, Xiaolong said. Thank you, Miss Yinair. The xiao wugong climbed onto his shoulder, acting playfully. Watching them, he said. They've become much tamer now. Yinair sat down beside him. Did you gather any new information? She asked. Xiaolong replied. I want to observe a bit more. She added. Sorry for rushing you, Xiaolong. Take your time to think. It's okay. Hearing that only made Xiaolong feel more pressured. Haha, but you are rushing me. Just then, Yinair noticed something. Huh? Xiaolong, look over there, by the tree root. What is it? Her voice remained steady. Monkeys, are they fighting? Monkeys? Xiaolong thought. Two monkeys by the tree root screeched angrily at each other. Yinair gasped. Oh no, they look really mad. A strange scent drifted into Xiaolong's nose. Miss Yinair. There's a smell in the air. She noticed it too. Ah. This scent. Could it be? Xiaolong was stunned. Could it be pheromones? He suddenly pointed toward the beehive and shouted. Miss Yinair, we have to get out of here. The bees will go berserk and swarm this place soon. Although she didn't fully understand, she quickly agreed. Huh! Oh, okay. Yinair grabbed Xiaolong again, and they jumped away from the area. They landed safely. Yinair gasped. Oh my God! The swarm of bees burst out from the hive and rushed toward the two monkeys. The bees viciously stung them until both monkeys collapsed, dead. Both Xiaolong and Yinair let out a sigh of relief. Phew! That was close! Why, yeah. While hiding, Yinair suddenly asked. But Xiaolong, how did you know the Jin Mao Feng Wang would attack? You told me to run before we even heard them buzzing. Without hesitation, Xiaolong replied. Because of the smell. Yinair was shocked. The smell? Thinking back, she murmured. Now that you mention it. It smelled like night-blooming jasmine. Now Xiaolong was the one shocked. What? He stared at Yinair, thinking, could it be? Yinair can distinguish pheromone scents? To confirm, he asked. Do you recognize that scent from before? Without hesitation. Yinair answered. Of course. It smelled just like night-blooming jasmine. Xiaolong suddenly grabbed her shoulders excitedly. That's it. Startled, she screamed. Xiaolong! Xiaolong let out a triumphant laugh. Ha ha! I've got it! I know how to wipe out the 4 sects and take the honey! The crowd gathered around the fire, cooking. The man with a scar across his eye took a deep swig from the wine bottle, wiped his mouth with his hand, and smacked his lips. Ah, delicious! Another scar-faced man asked. Hey, when do you think we can go get the honey? The first man stroked his chin. Not sure yet. 3 days ago, they were still running all over the place, but now they've suddenly gone quiet. He hesitated. Maybe they're up to something. The scar-faced man who had asked the question nodded. Probably. Another man sitting by the flickering fire wondered aloud. Hey, do beehives really make money? As soon as he finished speaking, another man looked at him in shock. What? Have you been fooled your whole life? The golden beeswax used by the king is an incredibly valuable treasure. Only the royal family is allowed to use it. They'll definitely take the honey and leave, which means the hive will be ours. He gave a sinister laugh. Besides, if they fail and all die. Ha ha ha! The scarred man by the fire chuckled along. Ha ha ha! Another scarred man reminded them about Iner. Oh, by the way, there's also that poisonous flower called the 3 flowers of Wulin. We need to be careful not to let it harm us. Heya kept laughing. Not a bad idea at all. Just imagining it. Ka ka ka! Ma Ho the lecher licked his lips. Ka, just thinking about it makes my whole body itch. The mouse stuck out his tongue. Who knows? Maybe one of us will end up becoming their son-in-law. Ma Ho crossed his arms, excited. Oh, of course. A life-saving grace must always be repaid. A fragrance drifted in from somewhere, making him freeze. Huh! Rather than feeling fear, everyone grew even more excited. Where is this wonderful scent coming from? Yeah, could it be from the poisonous flower? Ka ka, it must be. Surely the flowers are as beautiful and sweet as they smell. The fragrance spread throughout the forest. Suddenly, Ma Ho cried out. Huh! What's that sound? Out of nowhere, something tall and towering rose from the depths of the forest. The entire group panicked. Huh! What is that? Someone screamed. It's the queen bee! Run! Run for your lives! The bees shot through the air like arrows, stinging one person after another. Agonized screams echoed through the quiet forest. Ah! Help! Ah! The overturned barrels spilled their contents, rosy-colored sediment mixed with fruit. The accumulating residue released an ever-stronger fragrance. Xiaolong and Iner hid behind a boulder, watching the swarm of bees circling the source of the scent. Iner gasped in astonishment. It's real! Yu Zhang's eyes widened. The entire swarm is gathering in one place. She wondered. Xiaolong, what exactly did you do? I never expected the bees to go mad over the scent of that flower. He smiled teasingly. That's because I gave the bees the order to launch a full-scale attack. Iner recalled the glittering flowers and fruits. A full-scale attack? But all I did was crush the flowers and fruits and scatter them. She observed carefully and realized that the scent itself was the signal for the attack. A man dressed in a bee costume made a heart shape with his hands toward another bee. Pheromones. These are chemical signals that animals of the same species use to communicate. 2 bees landed on the grass. In particular, highly social insects like ants and wasps communicate intensively. One signals, "Oh, there's nectar over there," and another responds, "Oh, really?" They actively use pheromones to interact. The swarm of bees soared into the sky. The pheromone I used, Xiaolong continued, is the scent that bees release when initiating an attack. It's called isoamyl acetate. Iner clasped her hands together. You mean the fragrance of the Han Shao flower is identical to the scent bees release when they attack? That's incredible. Xiaolong scratched his cheek. Even so, I find it even more impressive that you could distinguish that scent, Iner. She covered her mouth and chuckled. The Tang family specializes in poisons, so being sensitive to scents is natural. Xiaolong glanced toward the hollow of a tree. Yes, that's right. The hollow was empty and silent. The queen bee has already led the swarm into battle, he said. We should start moving in too. Time to collect the queen's honey. The three of them wrapped mugwort in leaves, lit it, and let the smoke spread, carefully observing their surroundings. Yu Jiang murmured. Humph, I'll take the lead, Xiaolong. It's too dangerous, let me go first. Everyone gaped in surprise. Oh, look at that. Xiaolong was stunned. Good heavens! That beehive is enormous. They looked up at the golden hive, its intricate layers stacked like a combination of a cave and a labyrinth. In unison, they exclaimed. Unbelievable! The hive gleamed like gold. Yu Jiang held onto the mugwort. Luckily, it seems the bees have all flown away. Xiaolong nodded. But wait. He inspected the hive. There's no honey? Yu Jiang shaded his eyes. That's impossible. The hive was silent. Iner crossed her arms. Are you sure there really aren't any bees left, like you said? Yu Jiang stroked his chin. This has never happened before. It's very strange. Suddenly, Xiaolong understood. Could it be? He examined the hive carefully. There's not a single egg left in this hive. Yu Jiang was puzzled. What does that have to do with the lack of honey? The tree stood still in the mist as Xiaolong's voice echoed. Perhaps the bees were preparing to relocate beforehand. That's why they must have stored all their reserved honey in their stomachs before leaving. He speculated. Maybe. It's because they sense too many traces of humans around here lately. Iner realized. So that's it. Xiaolong studied the beehives. Exactly. When a bee colony decides to migrate, they stop laying eggs. That's because they no longer have the time or ability to care for the larvae. As he spoke, he suddenly froze. He saw part of an enormous bee. Xiaolong smirked. Leader, if you kept using light footwork without resting, how long could you last? Yu Jiang, confused by the sudden question, still answered. If I run at a moderate speed, I can keep going for about half a day. Curious, he asked. Why are you asking that all of a sudden? At that moment, Jiubai shouted from the base of the tree. Young Master Xiaolong. The queen bee. The bees began returning to the hollow tree. The golden swarm was coming back. You must leave immediately. Jiubai yelled. Yu Jiang's face tensed. We have to go. Young Master Xiaolong, let's give up and get out of here. Xiaolong hesitated near a boulder. Wait. Just a little longer. Yu Jiang could no longer wait. He grabbed Xiaolong by the collar. Xiaolong, hurry! Xiaolong gasped for air. Phew! Jiubai urged anxiously. Get out of there now. Xiaolong was dragged away, something bulging inside his robe. The moon shone brightly overhead. Everyone panted, relieved. Phew! That was almost a disaster, Yu Jiang said. Iner sighed in relief, unaware that a giant bee's head was peeking out from Xiaolong's robe. Phew, good thing we got out before the swarm returned, she said. Then she noticed the enormous bee and screamed. Xiaolong! What are you holding? Blushing, Xiaolong cradled the bee excitedly. Then he explained. This is the queen of the swarm. Since there's no honey left, I decided to bring the one who makes it instead. Yu Jiang broke into a cold sweat. The queen bee? Iner's eyes widened. Young Master Xiaolong, you don't mean? The two of them trembled in realization. The queen bee buzzed in irritation. BZZ! Xiaolong smirked. Well, it won't be long before the swarm realizes their queen is missing and comes after us. He patted the giant bee's head. Behind him, columns of black bees rose into the sky. Smiling, he said, Time to run. And so, the perilous chase for their lives began. The Xiaolong group was speeding through the forest. Indiana, his arms, was the queen of the Jin Mao Feng Wang. Buzzing frantically, he hurried to soothe it, thinking, Calm down, I'll take you somewhere no one will bother you, okay? Several days had passed since the deadly honeybee race began. During that time, the whole team had sacrificed sleep, focusing all their energy on moving forward. The moment they stopped to rest, the swarm of bees would catch up. Xiaolong shouted. They're here! Someone groaned. I can't run anymore, look at us, we're in such a miserable state. Along the way, Several members of the poison blood team had fallen behind, sitting on Jiu Bai's back. Xiaolong glanced at his exhausted teammates and thought, "When we get back, I must seriously train in lightness techniques." Suddenly, someone tripped and fell face first into the ground. Cough, a teammate panicked. "Huh! Another one fell behind?" The fallen man had collapsed from exhaustion. His teammates called out his name. "Tu Long is down!" One Tu Long of the poison blood team had been left behind. Xiaolong felt a deep fear in his heart. If we get far enough from the queen, maybe they'll stop attacking us. Yin Er anxiously urged. "Everyone, use your lightness skills and run faster!" Jiu Bai's dazed eyes looked toward Xiaolong. "Sir Xiaolong, will we make it?" Xiaolong hesitated. "Maybe, I think so." 3 days later. Jiu Bai was completely drained. He collapsed to the ground, cough, summoning the last of his strength, he gasped. Sorry, Sir Xiaolong, I can only go this far, cough cough." Thud, Yin Er and Xiaolong panted, staring at him. Master! Master! She suggested. "Xiaolong, let me carry you." Hearing that, he immediately refused. Lady Yin Er, but I can run on my own." Suddenly, she covered her face with her hand, shaking her head before raising her face, eyes filled with determination. "I can do this. A person of the Tang family never gives up." A massive gate of the Tang family loomed ahead. Hearing the commotion, 2 guards raised their eyes. One quickly recognized the distant figures. "Oh! The young lady has returned!" Xiaolong and Yin Er supported each other, staggering forward with pale, exhausted faces. The guards panicked. "Why, young lady?" Immediately, an arrow was fired into the sky, summoning the entire direct family. Jishan and Wu Qing saw the signal and rushed out. Jishan urgently asked, "What's going on?" Someone responded, "Lady Yin Er has returned." Before they could finish speaking, they saw the guards carefully supporting the exhausted Yin Er. Jishan gasped. "Really?" He swiftly reached out, channeling spiritual energy to heal her while asking, "Xiaolong, what happened?" Xiaolong explained breathlessly. Please remain calm." "Father-in-law, Lady Yin Er is only exhausted from 10 days of non-stop lightness skill travel." He continued, "But now's not the time for explanations. We must go to the martial field." Wu Qing frowned in confusion. "What? Why the martial field?" Xiaolong reached inside his robe, pulling out a small creature. Holding it up, he announced, "This is the queen of the Jing Mao Fengwang. Soon, the other bees will follow. We must reach the ancient tree in the martial field, immediately." Wu Qing grinned. "Ha! This kid is truly remarkable. He's destined for greatness." Jishan was stunned. "Wait, weren't you supposed to collect honey? How did you end up bringing back the queen?" Wu Qing clapped Xiaolong on the shoulder. "All right then, let's go." Xiaolong hesitated. "Huh!" In the next second, Wu Qing grabbed him and used his lightness skill, soaring into the air. Everyone watching was stunned. "Oh my God!" Carrying Xiaolong effortlessly, Wu Qing leaped from building to building. Xiaolong screamed. "H!" Wu Qing immediately asked, "What is it?" In the distance, a massive swarm of bees gathered into a dark cloud. Xiaolong panicked. "Old master! The bees are coming!" Wu Qing remained calm. "Humph, that many, huh? Did you bring the entire hive with you?" With that, he sped up. "Almost there! Hurry up!" At that speed, Xiaolong screamed in terror. "H!" Finally, they landed abruptly before the ancient tree. Nearly throwing Xiaolong and the queen bee off balance, Wu Qing instructed, "We've arrived, Xiaolong!" Without wasting a second, Xiaolong rushed to the tree's base. He spoke to the queen bee. "Jin Mao Fengwang, this is the place I told you about. From now on, this will be your home." The queen buzzed in response. "Bzz." Xiaolong released it, allowing it to fly freely. "Is this all right?" he asked. The queen nodded, buzzing happily. It then curiously explored its new home. After a moment, it flapped its wings with satisfaction. "Bzz." Xiaolong smiled. Looks like you like it. Wu Qing called from behind. Xiaolong! We need to leave, now! The swarm is coming! Xiaolong quickly answered. Yes, old master! Everyone stood in awe as the massive swarm of bees filled the sky. The queen joyfully welcomed its colony. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. The bees immediately ignored Xiaolong and swarmed toward the tree. Wu Qing sighed in amazement. Ha! Truly, in my entire life, I've never seen anything like this. Xiaolong let out a relieved breath. Ha! The Jin Mao Feng Wang has successfully been captured. He watched as the queen slowly sipped water, followed by groups of bees taking turns drinking from small bowls. He thought to himself, I lured them here with just a little sugar water to help them recover from exhaustion. They say sharing a meal brings people closer, he murmured. Seeing the bees eating so contentedly, he chuckled. They actually look kind of cute up close. Thankfully, this world has something similar to sugar. How lucky. Doing this would probably lower their guard a little. The queen bee savored the taste, thinking that if they recognized her as their master, it would be even better. Suddenly, he exclaimed. Ah, that's right! Sichuan was startled and asked. What is it? He hesitated and glanced over. What about missing air? Sichuan scoffed. You just remembered now? He continued. I already had someone take her to my wife to rest. By the way, did you use your lightness skill to bring that swarm of bees all the way here from the wooden forest? The young man timidly replied. Yes, father-in-law, I'm really sorry. He added. I only slept for about 2 hours a day. The rest of the time, I spent running. Sichuan grumbled. Humph, seriously. Wu Qing chuckled. Haha. Something suddenly crossed Sichuan's mind, and he called out. Xiaolong! Remembering those who had traveled with them, he asked. What about the blood venom squad? Where are they now? Xiaolong was taken aback. Oh! Jiubai was fast asleep next to the little wolves. He muttered nervously, avoiding eye contact. They're probably collapsed somewhere along the way. We might need to go pick them up. Wu Qing couldn't help but laugh. Haha. Eventually, the blood venom squad was safely reunited with their families. A few days later, Iner sat on the bed chatting. It seems like the Jin Mao Feng Wang have regained their strength. What a relief, Xiaolong! Xiaolong responded enthusiastically. Yes, Miss Iner! Right now, they're gathering nectar from the poisonous flowers in the Duong family's mountains. She gasped. Oh my, how adorable they are! Just then, a voice called from outside. Lord Xiaolong! Lord Xiaolong! The two of them turned toward the door. Huh! Jiubai appeared, drenched in sweat. Xiaolong asked. What's wrong? Jiubai panted. You need to come outside for a moment. Under their curious gazes, he continued. The Jin Mao Feng Wang swarm, they seem to be searching for something. Xiaolong frowned. They quickly rushed outside. Above them, the sky was filled with countless bees. Xiaolong was stunned. Are you serious? The bees detected Xiaolong. Whoosh. They swarmed all over him in excitement. Buzz, 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 he stammered. Huh! Hey, you guys! Iner worriedly called out. Xiaolong! Are you alright? The bees grabbed hold of his sleeves, tugging at him. Then, they clung tightly to his body. He kept asking. What's going on with you guys? Suddenly, his feet lifted off the ground. Ah! The swarm carried him into the air. Ah! Iner shrieked in panic. Xiaolong! They took him to a tree. Buzz, buzz! Xiaolong barely managed to regain his footing. Huff, huff! He looked up at the tree, then, he turned to the bees and asked. Your hive. What happened to it? The bees pushed him forward. Buzz, 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 he spoke gently. All right, I understand, you want me to go in. As he stepped inside and looked up, he was amazed. Oh! Above him, golden honey shimmered under the light. The hive was nearly complete, and the bees were already busy collecting more nectar. A large bee flew toward him. He tilted his head. It fluttered its wings as if greeting him. Buzz, he thought to himself, the queen bee. She latched onto him, he asked. Do you want me to lift you up? She flapped her wings in response. Buzz, the bees pressed tightly against Xiaolong. They clung to him so much that he could barely move. Excited, they buzzed loudly. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The queen bee drew closer, making a strange sound. Buzz. Xiaolong was confused. She suddenly puckered her lips toward him. He panicked. Hey, wait! Before Xiaolong could react, she kissed him. His eyes widened. MMPH. Tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. His mind was overwhelmed with confusion. Suddenly, he felt something surge into him. His panic grew. What is this? This strange sensation lasted for a long time under the watchful eyes of the bees. At last, the queen bee released him. Freed at last, he staggered backward, exhaling a puff of mist. Fu ha! Xiaolong covered his mouth, stammering. Why you, queen bee, you, that was my first kiss! What the hell are you doing? As soon as he spoke, a scorching heat erupted in his body. He was horrified. Huh! Then, he collapsed hard onto the ground. Pain shot through his body. His vision blurred. Straining to keep his eyes open, he looked toward the queen bee and tried to ask. What did you make me eat? The curious bees watched as Xiaolong clutched his stomach, emitting a red aura. His face flushed red, and he felt an unusual discomfort spreading throughout his body, an unbearable itch taking hold. His entire being was overwhelmed by the sensations. He curled up, hugging himself as if boiling from within, his face contorted in agony, his heartbeat thundering in his chest. Xiaolong reached out toward the queen of the Jin Mao Fengwang. Coughing. You! Looking at its innocent face, he wanted to ask. What did you feed me? But all it responded with was, Bye. Someone kept calling out. Xiaolong! He opened his blurry eyes to see Yin Er and Wu Qing. She looked worried. Grandfather, there's something wrong with Xiaolong. The old man assessed the situation and concluded. It seems he has ingested an overly potent elixir. When he closed his eyes again, he heard her voice urging. Xiaolong, wake up! The old man assisted. I will guide the energy for you. When he opened his eyes once more, Yin Er was beside him, holding a handkerchief. Xiaolong, are you awake? He sat up, rubbing his head in confusion. Where am I? She immediately answered. Tang's Sex Medical Hall. Then she tucked her hair behind her ear and recounted. When I saw you being pulled toward the Jin Mao Fengwang, Grandpa and I rushed over, but by the time we arrived, you had already lost consciousness, so we brought you here. Light streamed onto him as she asked. Do you remember what happened? Xiaolong gasped. He suddenly clutched his face as memory surfaced. My first kiss. Yin Er grew even more concerned. Xiaolong, are you okay? Is there anything wrong with your body? She furrowed her brows, anxiously considering. Should I call grandfather? Xiaolong waved it off. No need. It's just that. He hesitated but eventually sighed. Seeing her worried gaze, he explained. The queen bee fed me its food, that must be why this happened. She asked curiously. What exactly did you eat? He hesitated before replying vaguely. I'm not sure of its exact name, but if I were to name it, perhaps royal bee nectar? She tilted her head in confusion. Royal bee nectar? Xiaolong nodded with a smile. That's right, the worker bees collect honey and pollen to sustain themselves, but only they, the laborers, consume it. Yin Er looked at him with curiosity. Then what about the queen bee? He pondered for a moment before explaining. From birth until death, the queen only eats the royal bee nectar produced by the worker bees. He then recalled the honey he had tasted before. So, the nectar that the queen bee forced me to eat is essentially royal jelly. She placed a hand on her chin, deep in thought. I see. The lifelong food of a queen bee. Xiaolong smirked mysteriously, raising a finger. But royal bee nectar has a special effect. She immediately asked. What effect? Xiaolong excitedly leaned closer. Normally, worker bees only live for about a month, but the queen bee, thanks to royal bee nectar, lives 60 times longer. Isn't that incredible? Yin Er blushed, flustered. Xiao. Xiaolong, calm down! She coughed into her hand, regaining composure. Ah, I see, that answers my question. Then, she recalled an old bald man meditating, surrounded by intricate martial arts scripts. The internal cultivation technique Xiaolong practiced was the 5 Venoms refinement art. Since he had only learned the basic techniques, he couldn't fully absorb the energy from the elixir, she smiled knowingly. But the nectar of the Jin Mao Feng Wang provides the equivalent of 2 months of internal cultivation, right? And you absorbed 60 times that amount. Meaning you've gained 10 years' worth of internal energy. Her tone brightened as she added, Congratulations, you've had a fortunate encounter. Xiaolong's body unconsciously radiated a green aura as he stammered. 10 years of internal energy? Yinair twirled a strand of hair, glancing sideways with hesitation. And there's more. She shyly covered her face with her sleeve. Later, you should look into a silver mirror. It seems the royal bee nectar has other effects as well. His eyes widened. Other effects? Xiaolong tilted his head, scratching his cheek, oblivious to his own transformation. A silver mirror? A while later, he touched his face, tilting his head left and right. Something felt off. He nervously looked into a basin of water. Does royal jelly normally do this? Where did that country bumpkin go? Examining himself in disbelief, he poked his cheek. His facial features had become more delicate, his skin soft and smooth, almost like a woman's. His finger pressed into his cheek, feeling the silkiness of his own skin. A vision flashed before him of a young woman joyfully playing with Xiao Wugong. Hello, I'm Wei Xiaoling! Xiaolong was stunned, horrified. The queen bee's royal jelly did this to me. He slumped in frustration, lowering his head in defeat. Then, he tugged at his pants and checked. His little self was still there, collapsing onto the floor. He let out a relieved sigh. Thank goodness. It's still where it should be. He suddenly recalled Yinair's words. If Grandpa hadn't guided your energy, something serious might have happened. With that in mind, he decided, I should go thank him. I almost lost my life, but I was saved. Time passed, the sky was bright blue, and the sunlight was gentle. Trees swayed in the breeze. As Xiaolong walked, people turned to stare at him. He thought to himself, Ahem. 2 young women whispered among themselves, making him uncomfortable. Why do I suddenly feel so many unfamiliar gazes? Is it because my internal energy has increased? Flustered, he hurried away, leaving them giggling behind him. First, I need to escape from here. A moment later, he arrived at a grand and ancient yet well-maintained hall, the dining area of the Sichuan Tang family, known as Sichuan Pavilion. Xiaolong gently pushed the door open and peeked inside. A feast of delicious food met his eyes, with servants swiftly setting dishes on the table. Hearing the noise, the matron turned around, smiling warmly. Oh my son-in-law looks much brighter today. Has your body recovered? Xiaolong clasped his hands together and bowed respectfully. Yes, mother-in-law, I apologize for making you worry. She smiled. No need to apologize. If you've had a fortunate encounter, then it's something to celebrate. Then, she turned to Yinair and teased. Oh my, look at this complexion. Yinair must be quite pleased. Flustered, Yinair's face turned as red as a tomato. Mother! Trying to regain her composure, she changed the subject. Xiaolong, come, sit down quickly. The matron chuckled and covered her mouth, while Xiaolong glanced to the side and replied, Yes. Everyone quietly took their seats at the table. Zhishan looked at Xiaolong and asked, Xiaolong, has your body improved? He nodded. Yes, father-in-law, I apologize for causing you concern. Then, turning gratefully to another elder, he added, Thank you, grandfather, I heard you examined my condition. Wu Qing laughed and interjected. Oh? Having a fortunate encounter is a good thing. Seeing that Xiaolong was fine, Zhishan got to the point. All right, now tell us what happened. Yinair, sitting beside him, also looked at him curiously. I've heard about the Phoenix King nectar from Yinair. Zhishan continued. What exactly happened? Xiaolong hesitated, scratching his cheek. Well. He recalled the moment the queen bee kissed him and explained. Perhaps because she was pleased with a new hive, the Jin Mao Feng Wang, the golden hair queen bee, wanted to show gratitude to me. That's why I was taken back to the hive and suddenly fed the Phoenix King nectar. I believe everything that happened stems from this event. Everyone was shocked. The matron spoke first. Oh? A mid-tier venomous creature that knows how to repay a favor? That's quite strange. Wu Qing's eyes gleamed with interest. By the way, is there any way to obtain more of this Phoenix King nectar? If we can acquire more, it would be incredibly beneficial for the Tang family. Jishan agreed. Even the regular honey from the Jin Mao Feng Wang is already quite valuable. If it's Phoenix King nectar, it must be even more extraordinary. The matron frowned slightly. Son-in-law, is there any way to obtain more Phoenix King nectar? Her eager question left the entire room in silence. Cough, Iner quickly spoke to break the tension. All right. Xiaolong, is there any way to find more? Xiaolong folded his arms and rubbed his temples. He rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought, imagining different beehives. If it were just normal bees, one could build multiple separate hives for queen bees, known as royal chambers, and use worker bees to collect royal jelly. Then, he imagined his subordinates frantically running with tiny hives while being chased by angry bees. Young Master Xiaolong, isn't this completely different? If they tried this with the highly intelligent Jin Mao Feng Wang, they would definitely be turned into beehives themselves. He recalled the moment he held the queen bee in his hands. Normally, royal jelly is food for larvae, produced by worker bees, but in his case, the queen herself directly fed him. Would that make this substance entirely different? Snapping out of his thoughts, Xiaolong looked up with determination. I'll be honest here, he declared. He hesitated before continuing. I'm afraid it's impossible. Wu Qing frowned. Impossible? Why? The matron also looked puzzled. Son-in-law, why not? Bombarded with questions, Xiaolong lowered his head, a bit flustered. Even if it's edible, who would dare to eat it? Jishan raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Does it have a strange taste? Or a weird smell? Xiaolong's eyes darted around, looking a bit awkward. It's not that. He recalled the moment the queen bee kissed him and explained. The Phoenix King nectar is secreted from the queen bee's mouth. It seems that it must be transferred directly from her mouth to the recipient. His eyes widened as he emphasized. In other words, it's like a kiss. The queen's secretion has to enter the recipient's mouth for it to take effect. Wu Qing shouted in shock. What? Contact with the queen bee? The matron gasped. What? Jishan wiped sweat from his forehead, suddenly nervous. Then it seems it's truly impossible to obtain more, unless it's Xiaolong, the one favored by the Jin Mao Feng Wang. For anyone else, it's out of the question. Suddenly, a pair of wooden chopsticks fell onto the table with a sharp clack. Iner's cold voice sent a chill down Xiaolong's spine. Contact by mouth? Her face turned pale as she stared at him in disbelief. Xiaolong, did you really exchange mouth-to-mouth contact with the Jin Mao Feng Wang? At a picturesque place where mountains and rivers meet, the moonlight shone down, illuminating the night. Suddenly, a scarred hand appeared. The supreme leader of the martial arts world, Sovereign Zhou Zhongshui, sat in deep thought, gazing outside. A voice called from beyond. Master, I have brought tea. He looked out and responded. All right, come in. A maid entered carrying the tea. I have prepared West Mountain White Dew tea. Zhongshui turned in surprise, folding his arms as he sat. Tea from my homeland? She poured the tea into a cup. Yes, this is the famed tea of West Mountain, Nanchang. He was touched. Thank you, I will savor it to the fullest. He lifted the cup while the maid stood beside him. Watching intently, just as he was about to drink, a voice called from outside. Master, it is I, military advisor Zhuge Ho. Zhongshui frowned slightly. What is it at this late hour? Come in. Zhuge Ho entered and bowed. My apologies for disturbing your rest, master. He clasped his hands and solemnly reported. Urgent news has arrived from the Tang family in Sichuan. I thought it best to inform you immediately. Zhongshui did not rebuke him. It's fine. if you have come in such a hurry, it must be important. Speak. The maid quietly stepped back as the two men turned serious. Zhuge Ho placed a scroll on the table. Bloodhand Demon Rakshasa, Tak and Yang. Zhong Shui slammed his palm on the table in fury. What? Zhuge Ho continued. The Tang family has obtained his head, along with the secret manual of the Bloodhand Venom Palm. Zhong Shui gritted his teeth. The Bloodhand Venom Palm. That terrifying martial art. How did they recover it? Zhuge Ho wiped his brow before explaining. Years ago, Tak and Yang was struck by the 10,000 Venom's Grandmaster's attack and disappeared. He later drifted to Hainan and went into seclusion. A smile crossed Zhuge Ho's face. What's even more intriguing is the story behind it. A shadowy figure, Xiaolong, appeared in his tale. The infamous demon, Tak and Yang, was defeated by a young hero alongside a poison master. Zhong Shui narrowed his eyes. A young hero and a poison master, you say? Zhuge Ho fanned himself and chuckled. Yes, quite an interesting tale, one that might intrigue you, master. The maid shot a fiery glance at Zhuge Ho as he spoke with amusement. Meanwhile, at the Tang family residence in Sichuan, a crowd had gathered in the main hall. Someone exclaimed. So it's true, Master Tang. An elder spoke. Someone dared to sell intelligence from our Tang clan to outsiders? Another person beside him fumed. Such audacity! To think they would tarnish the honor of our clan! Seated opposite, Xiaolong whispered to Yinair. Surprising, isn't it? You didn't scold your father-in-law? She smiled knowingly. Of course not, Xiaolong. The elders cast sharp gazes forward. Following Yinair's words, their outrage grew. Sichuan, with a calm yet firm demeanor, stated. I have asked the Beggars sect to verify the information. We should receive news soon. I plan to travel to Yongxian Prefecture myself. An elder asked angrily. And how do you plan to handle this? Sichuan laid out his plan. First, we will use the soul-breaking poison, the blood-melting poison, and the organ-severing poison. The room fell silent. In the next moment, Sichuan's expression darkened, and a chilling aura emanated from him. When the blood burns, the organs dissolve, and the target writhes in agony, I will end them with the 7 treasures soul-severing poison. Xiaolong froze. Wait. A poison cocktail? Sichuan turned to Yujiang. Summon the poison eradication squad immediately, we depart at once. Yujiang bowed. Understood, master. The gathering dispersed, Sichuan stepped into the courtyard to meet the squad. Before leaving, he turned to Xiaolong. My son-in-law, I will take my leave. Rest well and take care of yourself. Xiaolong clasped his hands in gratitude. Understood, father-in-law, please be careful. Sichuan smirked. Careful? What do I have to be careful of? They are the ones who should be afraid. He led the team forward. Let's go. We will rain upon them 100-fold retribution, 100-fold punishment. His warriors roared in unison. Yes, master! Xiaolong glanced at the masked figures. Lady Yinair, are these the poison eradication squad? This is my first time seeing them. Yinair, standing beside him, explained. Yes, they handle the most dangerous tasks. She smiled eerily. Mainly elimination and extermination, that's why they are called the Poison Eradication Squad. Xiaolong thought to himself, that's not just dangerous work, that's outright assassination. Just then, footsteps approached from behind. Cough. Cough. 2 elders entered. Xiaolong greeted them with a respectful bow. Xiaolong pays respects to the esteemed elders of the Tang family. One of them coughed. Cough. Yes, we heard you had a fortunate encounter. Xiaolong hesitated before replying. Yes, esteemed elders. He glanced sideways, thinking, could they mean the queen bee's royal honey from the golden mane phoenix? The other elder faked a cough. Cough. We came to ask you for a favor. Xiaolong felt a sudden pressure. What is it? The thought struck him, could they want the royal honey? The elder grew flustered. Ah, no. That's not it. Another person interjected. You think we would covet such a thing? The other elder nodded. Indeed. The divine herbs and treasures of the world are destined for their rightful owners, are they not? Xiaolong frowned. Then, what is this favor? The two elders exchanged uneasy glances. Sweat forming on their brows, one of them stepped forward and cautiously looked around. He whispered into Xiaolong's ear. Come closer, isn't that the fat phlegm pill? I heard it was created by our son-in-law, so the right to decide belongs to him. Finally, he understood and smiled brightly. Ah! Xiaolong tossed the pill into the air and laughed. I'm also trying to adapt to the Tang family. There are many difficulties, but if the elders could lend some support, then offering this up wouldn't be impossible. The elders were overjoyed and grinned widely. Ah, that's right! Our son-in-law truly understands things. From now on, we will fully support him. Rest assured and live in the family without worries. Wu Qing stepped out, looking bewildered. Xiaolong's group immediately froze when he asked, What are you all discussing so cheerfully? They hesitated, the three of them quickly covered it up. Ah, just strengthening our bond with our son-in-law. He smiled and played along. Of course, esteemed elders. Wu Qing was satisfied. Ha ha ha, it seems you all have finally realized Xiaolong's true value. Iner, who had been witnessing everything, broke out in a cold sweat. The elder responded. Of course, Supreme Family Head. Ha! Just then, a voice called out from inside. Supreme Family Head. Big news. Wu Qing asked. What happened? According to the messenger, the lord of Sichuan city was on the verge of death. Everyone was stunned and shouted. What? Xiaolong was alarmed. Did he follow the correct dosage instructions? The messenger hesitated. Well, the thing is, he explained that after seeing the effects of the medicine, the lord of Sichuan city had taken more concubines and used a dosage several times higher than instructed. Xiaolong was shocked. Oh no! Wu Qing held his forehead. I must go there immediately. Before leaving, he turned to Xiaolong. You are the only man left in the family. Protect the women, understood? Xiaolong straightened up and replied. Yes, grandfather. Wu Qing left in a flash. The group watched him go, puzzled. Is there really something to worry about? Night had fully fallen, the sky filled with drifting clouds. The Tang family residence remained lit. Xiaolong and Iner sat together. Xiaolong, how's your progress with the 10 Venoms dual origin technique? He glanced away evasively. Compared to the beginning, it's not as confusing now. He imagined 2 types of insects crawling. If the 5 Venoms unified technique felt like a single large energy cycle in the body, then the 10 Venoms dual origin technique was like 2 energy streams operating simultaneously. Like a twin-cylinder engine. Iner was excited. Now, I probably have some resistance to common poisons. She looked up. And I can even release energy externally or transfer it into objects. Xiaolong was astonished. Really? With determined eyes, he stood up in front of a training dummy. Holding a sharp weapon, he focused his energy. A green aura radiated around him as he channeled his internal force, making 2 energy flows rotate in sync. He slowly opened his eyes, feeling his body filled with power. He swung his arm and threw the glowing weapon toward the dummy. The sharp metal flew like lightning, instantly exploding the training figure into pieces. An assassin hiding nearby gawked as the blade embedded itself straight into the wall. Excited, Xiaolong turned to Iner. Lady Iner, I did it! She smiled. Xiaolong, that's amazing! You successfully infused energy into the throwing knife. Meanwhile, hidden figures whispered behind a bush. Could we have been discovered? Do we need to eliminate him? The leader shook his head. No, it seems like just a coincidence. He pulled out a book. Even though this is only a copy, we've obtained the Blood Hand Venom Palm Manual. Our mission is complete. Before trouble arises, we must leave and return to our sect. They sneered. Ha! Fools! Being so careless in the training grounds made it easy for us to escape. Suddenly, a crimson aura flew toward them. The leader's eyes widened. A golden-furred Jin Mao Feng Wang approached, its sharp gaze fixed on the group below. the others hadn't noticed yet. Do you smell something sweet in the air? Above them. The creature circled in the sky, watching. At the Tang family estate, a sudden scream echoed. Ah! Xiaolong was startled and turned around. What's happening? Yin Er was equally surprised. It seems like someone is here. In the distance, one of the assassins clutched his face and screamed. Ah! Why are there bees? Both Xiaolong and Yin Er immediately realized. Intruders. Yin Er leaped forward. Xiaolong, shoot the arrows! Seeing her sudden movement, Xiaolong panicked. Miss Yin Er! The assassins clicked their tongues in frustration. TCH, retreat! Meanwhile, one of their members was struggling. Get this thing off me! Damn it! Two of them quickly fled while the others hesitated. Yin Er rushed to intercept. Stop right there! She lashed her long whip at them. The whip struck the ground, but the assassins swiftly jumped away. She was stunned. They dodged my whip. One of the assassins lunged forward, sword in hand. Ha! Die! Xiaolong shouted in alarm. Miss Yin Er, be careful! The assassin, his face twisted in malice, swung his sword at her, but Yin Er remained calm. She whipped her weapon, blocking the strike. Then, with a precise motion, she lashed the whip across his face, sending him flying. Xiaolong, watching from a distance, shouted, Yin Er! Are you okay? She turned back calmly. I'm fine. Just then, Xiaolong's face paled as he saw an assassin radiating a dark aura. What is that? Is he dead? Yin Er stared coldly at the corpse, its mouth slightly open. He bit down on poison to kill himself. Looks like he had something to hide. The entire estate was now lit up. Shouts echoed through the air. Intruders! Catch them! Yin Er furrowed her brows. We need to form a search team immediately. Xiaolong, come with me and Jiu Bai, the leader of the Blood Venom Squad. Under the silent night sky, shadows darted through the mountains as the pursuit began. Catch them! Jiu Bai sprinted ahead at lightning speed. We must catch them! Xiaolong and the others struggled to keep up. They haven't gone far. Xiaolong was nervous. Let's go. My twin-cylinder engine. Suddenly, the ground beneath him collapsed. His lower half sank into a pit. Jiu Bai turned back in alarm. Master Xiaolong! He and another fighter rushed over, pulling him up. Are you okay? Xiaolong gasped, pulling himself out. Thanks. I thought I was done for. But then, his eyes widened. Huh! Below him, a nest of emerald green snakes was coiling, their tongues flicking ominously. A snake den? Jiu Bai explained. This is a snake burrow. Snakes gather where energy is strong. This season, they're more aggressive than usual. Be careful. Xiaolong wiped his sweat. Damn, that was close. A viper suddenly raised its head, baring its fangs, ready to strike. Strange. Water-striped vipers aren't normally this aggressive. Pushing his worries aside, Xiaolong gritted his teeth. We've wasted enough time. Let's go. Yes, Master Xiaolong. The others responded in unison. Further ahead, the real battle was unfolding. The pursuing warriors charged. There they are. Stop them. One of the escaping assassins scowled. TCH. Both sides braced for combat as a torrential downpour suddenly drenched the battlefield. Lightning slashed across the sky. Jiu Bai reached into his sleeve and threatened the enemy. You have nowhere to run. The enemy leader ordered. Tighten the formation. Weapons were drawn, then, a battle cry erupted. Attack! The pursuit squad charged forward, however, their attacks were met with fierce resistance. One assassin growled. TCH, you insignificant insects! He kicked an opponent square in the face. Watch out! One of the warriors warned. Suddenly, Jiu Bai streaked forward like a phantom. His fist shot out like a bullet, but the enemy narrowly dodged. Jiu Bai landed and swiftly threw 3 shuriken, shouting, Triple shadow execution! The blades split into 3, forcing the assassin to retreat. Though he dodged 2, the third stabbed into his side. Jiu Bai sneered. Lucky bastard! If it weren't raining, the poison on that blade would have killed you. The squad surrounded the wounded enemy. The assassin spat blood. Damn it! Jiu Bai's glare darkened, but then, a monstrous voice thundered across the battlefield. Ha ha! You pathetic worms, gathering like this! Jiu Bai's expression hardened, he turned sharply. Who's there? From above, a giant figure crashed down, boom! Rocks shattered everywhere, the ground trembled, the monstrous man grinned. Genie, the bloody tyrant, Jiu Bai's face paled. He's a master! Retreat, now! The crimson aura surrounding Genie thickened as he stepped forward. He turned toward one of the assassins. Did you get it? The assassin obediently pulled out an old book. Yes, sir. It's only a copy, but it's the Blood Hand Venom Palm Manual, recorded by the Tang clan. Xiaolong's eyes widened. That book. He suddenly remembered Wu Qing's warning. Only evil men would seek that technique. His heart pounded. That's... His expression twisted in realization. The copied version of the evil manual grandfather read last time. His panic erupted. Jiu Bai! That's the Blood Hand Venom Palm Manual. Jiu Bai's face darkened instantly. What? That's a copy of the manual? Rage coursed through him, his veins bulged. You despicable scum! He glared at Genie, seething. What kind of monster desires such an evil technique? State your name! The blood-soaked elder smirked. Humph, just as I expected. His greedy eyes locked onto the book. Since it's only a copy, it lacks the full techniques, but it's enough. He shut the book with satisfaction. Well then, he declared proudly. There's no better way to announce our return than this. He turned to his underling. Blood vengeance. You may use the sex martial arts. The assassin bowed deeply. As you command. Then, he extended his hand towards his fallen comrade. Xiaolong's breath hitched. Wait. What's he doing? The assassin's body shriveled as his blood was absorbed. Jiu Bai's eyes widened in horror. That technique? Xiaolong stammered. He's drinking blood? Blood vengeance devoured the blood greedily. His body glowing red, the shuriken wound vanished instantly. Genie grinned and formed a crimson sphere in his palm. He licked his lips, his long tongue dripping with saliva. It's been far too long since I tasted fine blood like yours. He stood alongside his comrades, facing off against the elder of the blood sect. The elder smirked slyly, slowly pulling something from within his robes before giving a command. Blood Shadow, capture him! Nothing aids recovery better than the fresh essence of a young man's blood, he declared. Understood. His subordinate responded. Both figures lunged toward Xiaolong with terrifying speed. Jiu Bai, alarmed, shouted at the top of his lungs. Quick! Deploy the 5 Venoms Fire Annihilation Formation! Do not let him reach Lord Xiaolong! From above, the elder descended with a wicked grin. Try and stop me! He taunted. His attack came so swiftly that his opponents barely had time to react. Cries of pain echoed through the battlefield. Aya! Everyone desperately tried to protect Xiaolong. Lord Xiaolong, dodge! He instinctively raised his hands to shield his face, panic gripping his heart. A blood sect subordinate had already closed in, locking Xiaolong in a tight chokehold. Rest for a moment, the man sneered. Looks like the elder intends to extract your essence. Xiaolong's face turned pale, his vision blurring. My children! Suddenly, Xiao Wugong leaped out and bit the attacker, forcing him to release Xiaolong in agony. Chi it! Chai it! The blood sect subordinate stared in shock. Wugong! Could it be? Before he could finish his sentence, a dagger shot through the air, embedding itself in his skull. Simultaneously, Wugong lunged at him with a final attack. A powerful strike sent the man flying. Xiaolong covered his face in fear. Aya! A familiar voice rang out. Xiaolong! Iner and her allies arrived. Overjoyed, he called out. Lady Iner! His comrades froze in their tracks, eyes locked on the enemy. They launched an all-out assault against the blood sect elder. Jiu Bai, still catching his breath, turned and called out anxiously. Lady Iner! She shouted back. The blood sect elder is attacking! Everyone, assist Vice Captain Jiubai immediately! Understood, my lady! Yu Jiang responded. Advance! Transform the 5 Venoms Fire Annihilation Formation into the 9 Venoms Fire Annihilation Formation! The entire squad surrounded the elder. He looked around at their formation, amused. So you're the brat who defeated Blood Talon, the venomous eagle, Tak and Yang, he mused, his tongue flicking out menacingly. The so-called Blood Talon turned out to be nothing but an empty name, easily taken down by Wugong's bite. He jeered and raged. The captain shouted. Silence! You will die here as well! The elder sneered. Oh? Is that so? Dark energy surged around him as he gathered his strength. Let's see what you've got. In the distance, as flames roared around them, Xiaolong tended to his wounded allies. Cough, hold on just a little longer. He reassured them. He was deeply worried. The situation is dire. He thought, one by one, his comrades were being lifted and struck down by the elder's overwhelming force. Our forces are weakening. Xiaolong grimaced. But that blood sect fiend. As long as he absorbs blood, he recovers instantly. Iner was sent crashing into a tree. Xiaolong's heart pounded as he turned to her. Lady Iner. She struggled to stand, coughing up blood. I am fine. He rushed to support her. Are you all right? She wiped the blood from her lips and grabbed his hand. Xiaolong, she whispered, return to the clan and call for reinforcements. We cannot handle them on our own. Xiaolong clenched his fists. Damn it! He turned to see the blood sect elder mercilessly slaughtering their comrades. In this battle, I'm completely useless. He realized bitterly. The squad captain and his remaining allies launched themselves at the enemy. But before doing so, they glanced back at Xiaolong and pleaded. Lord Xiaolong, for the sake of the family, please help us. We will hold them here. You must go. Xiaolong could only remain silent. Finally, with a heavy heart, he nodded. I understand. I will return as quickly as possible. Just as he spoke, a strong gust blew his hair into his face. But with my current level of lightness skill, I don't know if I can make it in time. Iner gently embraced him. You will be fine, she said softly. You can do this, you've trained hard all this time. Xiaolong stood frozen, listening to her words. And after this, let's go search for poisons together again. She added with a playful smile, patting his shoulder. Xiaolong, we are counting on you. She turned and left, leaving him alone. Xiaolong clenched his fists. Damn it! He ran. As heavy rain poured down, he sprinted through the storm, panting heavily. His foot struck a rock. Ugh! He tumbled, face planting into the mud. Xiao Wugong scurried out, chirping in concern. Chai it! Xiaolong knelt there, lost in thought. This is strange. His mind raced. Even if I use all my strength and lightness skill, it would take half a day to return. The clan's strongest warriors are all away. He stroked Xiao Wugong absent-mindedly. Even if I call for reinforcements, they won't make it in time. Kneeling in the rain, he suddenly realized something. They sent me away. To save me. His confused gaze lifted to the stormy sky. Why? His hands clenched tightly. Because I'm the youngest? Because I'm weak, so I need to be protected? Is this what martial chivalry is supposed to be? He recalled the words of Tang Zhishan. From now on, you are family. Xiaolong was stunned. Family? He looked at his own hands. I never really thought about what family meant. I always felt like I wasn't truly a part of the Sichuan Tang clan. Memories of warm moments with his comrades flooded his mind. But to them, I am family. He scratched his head, suddenly feeling embarrassed. Xiaolong's expression darkened as raindrops rolled down his cheeks. Mingling with his unspoken emotions, he gently patted Xiao Wugong. An assassin clan. Why do they feel so warm? Determination flared in his eyes as he slowly stood up. Come on, let's go save your mother. He dashed forward, his mind set. I have to save them. I must think of a way. He analyzed the situation. Blood sect. Blood. Regeneration. Venomous creatures. Venomous herbs. Nearby poisons. Suddenly he stopped. Before him loomed a massive cave, a snake den. Inside, countless serpents coiled upon one another. Xiao Wugong tensed at the sight. Xiao Long gently stroked his companion. Wait here, it'll be all right. He placed them down as they yawned lazily on the ground, then, without hesitation, he stepped forward, and leaped directly into the snake den. Grinning, he declared, In the world of martial chivalry, I will handle this my way.